All right, if everyone's ready, I'm going to lead us in.
Do it. Do it. Do it now.
Get in the chopper.
Kill me.
Yeah, sorry, that was good.
What are you doing? Get it down here.
We should start the podcast like this. Welcome to the UGO podcast.
Welcome. Justin, you son of a bitch.
My man.
Going soft. And welcome to the UGO podcast, the if it bleeds we can kill it edition. We are Travis, I am very excited today.
Yes,
I'm very excited. We have not one but two very special guests with us, and who is joining? Well, I mean, first we should introduce ourselves first, and then who's joining us. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
I am, of course, Nick, your host, the Merc with a mic himself, and of course our lovely Unapologists co-host, the God of the Pod himself,
Travis. Or should I be doing like a Vanna White thing right now? I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
You do you, man. You do you. And who else is doing you on this, or doing them? They're doing you. That's a different thing.
I mean, I like to be like some consent to this first. At least let me know about it before it happens.
Okay, so yeah, I will definitely make sure we get your permission before we do you. Anyway, it's Justin. Say hi, Justin.
Hello, everybody. I'm here to review movies and talk news. Hey, everybody.
Patience, let's hear that Jesse Ventura.
And I'll talk about being a gosh dang sexual tyrannosaurus.
But Patience, say hi so the people can hear your voice.
Hello, sorry for doing you, Travis. I didn't mean to.
No, that's all right. I just asked for consent first. That's all.
Somebody please do me. I want someone to do me.
Hey, we ain't got time to plead.
I'm not
all
picky.
Right. I am going to avert that all the jokes we can make about Justin's loneliness, and we are going to move right on. That's how good of a friend I am. Anyway, guys, we are talking about predators today, of the hunting variety, not the sexual variety. Although, then again, one of those might come up.
See, we're just going all over the place, aren't we?
I thought this was going to be a nature documentary. We're going to talk about predators in natural wild, right?
Well, we took a vote, and the Predator movie sounded cooler.
I went straight Chris Hansen. I thought we were talking about Chris Hansen's Predators. That's not what we're doing. I have a pizza and a box of condoms. I'm really awkward right now.
If you hear the clicking noises in that movie, you better run.
So, sir, what exactly are we going to do with this mask? Why was this involved here?
Oh, jeez.
I understand the gauntlets, but why is a dildo claw attached to them? Anyway.
No, officer, I swear, I only attack when in defense, so.
So it's got to be a college humor skit like that, right? Like, is that not a thing?
It needs to be. It needs to be.
It should be.
I'm sure some douchebag high schoolers have done a skit like that, so somewhere on YouTube.
Sure. All right, so yeah, we're going to be talking about the Predator film that is out in the theaters right now. We have seen it. We are fresh off of it, actually, as of this recording, only hours after we saw it.
Same here.
Very excited to talk about it. Patience got to see it early, so that was fun. And we'll be talking about the other Predator films as well, because I find it a franchise worth discussing. But before we get into that, let's just get into the How We Doing segment. Guys, how we doing? Travis, let's start with you.
Me? Why me? I didn't do anything.
Because we, I don't know, just want to put you on the spot and give our guests some time to think, you know?
Why don't I ever get time to think?
Because your job is to not think. Your job is to sit there and look pretty, and you're not even doing that great today. You know, I'm sorry. He's not usually this uppity. He's just acting out since we have guests.
Bitch, I'm always pretty.
Okay, so there's that sass that I wanted. Like, how you doing, sassafras?
I'm doing just fine.
Anything happening this week?
Not really. We've still been trying to play through that Spider-Man game.
Oh, that's right. You have. I beat it. Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
I haven't beat it yet. I've only played like
distracted.
first. I'm one of those guys where I get stuck doing side quests in those kind of games. So I'm still like gathering all the collectibles, picked up all the backpacks, and then it's like, Oh yeah, there's a story.
I'm too much of a good guy. I'm too much of a good guy. Anytime there's a crime, I gotta go stop it.
Right?
It's like, honestly, Spider-Man would stop the crime.
I just love the fast, like, just traveling around. And yeah, it's very enjoyable. Like, I'm going like 60 miles an hour. There's a person. I'm gonna land and punch them. Yeah, he's dead. I don't care how much Spider-Man saves people. That guy's dead.
Well, I mean, if you throw people off of buildings, they get ziplined. Except for the one guy who the building I was not tall enough to where he got ziplined, and he fell really bad.
Okay, see, because maybe I'm doing it wrong, because all the people that my Spider-Man throws off, no one gets ziplined. They all just fall to their deaths in my game. I don't get it.
They fall to a certain point, and if your camera's watching them, they get ziplined.
It's funny because when we figured this out, like, Nick's like, no, see, they saved him. I'm like, yeah, but only because you were watching. They're like Schrodinger's bad guys.
Yeah, we were like, is it Schrodinger's goons? Like, they're alive and not alive, but they're webbed up and not webbed up at the same time.
Well, don't worry.
I left for work with just Nick fighting bad guys and trying to make sure every single one was watched so he could save them all.
It felt weird throwing people off buildings. Spider-Man shouldn't do that.
Right?
Anyway, yeah, I finally beat that one, so that was fun.
Finally, he says, after like a week of it being released.
Okay, so I'm going to ask this, Nick. One thing I have noticed with the gameplay that I've done so far, it feels very much like it's just Batman with Spider-Man. You know, it's Batman combat style, it's Batman story flow. And
it's like Arkham City, but with Spider-Man.
Yep.
Yeah,
yes,
basically.
It very much is.
Does the plot pick up a little bit? Because, I mean, I'm liking the story so far. It hasn't hooked, lined, and sinkered me yet. Like, the only thing I'm really invested in right now is the Doc Octopus whole thing, so...
Yeah, that takes over in a big way, and that's the good decision that it makes. Otherwise, there's a lot of stuff that feel like they're setting up for a sequel.
They're sequel baiting. So even in the beginning, they're sequel baiting so hard. Yeah. So much stuff in this game.
Don't expect any of that Miles Morales shit to pay off in any way. Like it comes in right at the end, and then they don't have to deal with it. But yeah, like as far as like they're not quite like the Batman games, because the Batman games get into like, oh, you get to meet all the side missions kind of deal with like, oh, say it's like Clayface and there's like this. No, like you deal with like a couple minor enemies, like Tombstone shows up.
Ooh.
But then that's about it. It's mostly Mr. Negative and Doc Ock, which is probably a good idea to strip down and focus in this game, considering we've kind of gone really weird with some of the other Spider-Man games, and we need to reset back to a certain 0 point. But now in the next game, if Insomniac does it, I want them to go full hog and go like, I want all the bases to be run by minor fucking villains.
Yeah, see, that's one thing that kind of bugged me, that I know some of the side quests, it's like, chase around a bunch of pigeons, or, you know, go over here and beat up some guys. It's like, this is what I hated in Arkham Knight. Don't give me just random, you know, filler quests. Give me a villain. Give me Deathstroke. Give me whatever. Mm-hmm. So...
the challenge ones, if you defeat the challenge ones, you get to fight Taskmaster. So that's fun.
Yeah. He actually, like, randomly ambushes you, too, the first time you get him, which is like, okay.
He ambushes you like Man-Bat does in Arkham Knight, which is really cool.
Nice.
But that's it. Like, that's the only one. I'm like, why did you do this with all of them?
It's not like it's not there, but it's not as prevalent as in the Batman games that have had time to develop that. So I'm hoping that just makes it. Also, did we have to switch up the buttons since it feels so much like Arkham Asylum that... I'm trying to press triangle, even though that is not the button for dodge.
Yeah, like, no, that's been tripping me up too. Where like I had to relearn how to fight in this game because I was just like, I'm getting my butt handed to me, even in the street crimes. I feel like I'm not getting the hang of the buttons. So
yeah, because the dodge button feels like it should be the triangle button, and yet they switch it up just to be different.
And for some reason, they don't allow for button changes, which is dumb.
What the fuck? It's kind of like a first-person shooter that doesn't put the fire button on R1. You're just being weird.
You're not valid.
Yeah, you're just being an asshole.
Though I do say, if they do a sequel game, they need to put in superior foes of Spider-Man. That way, if Tombstone has shown up and Shocker's shown up, they need to do a whole roundup of those guys.
Well, all those fucking bases should be run by the superior foes. Boomerang should show up out of the bases after I beat up everybody. He should be like a slightly stronger henchman.
Which, by the way, thinking of that, I finally bought the 3rd volume of Superior Foes, because I had the first 2 and I loved them, and I can never find a bookseller that actually had a copy of it. And then, sure enough, this random comic book shop I found, right there, the final volume of Superior Foes. And it's awesome. Oh, so good.
That comic book series is great. It's seriously one of the funniest comic books you will ever read.
Yeah, and that Boomerang joke was the best, where he's at the store, the restaurant, and they think the Punisher's after them. And they're like, You got any last words? And he seems just like, Yeah, I don't want to die with a boomerang on my head. He takes the mask off.
He just takes off his mask.
And then
I
he
don't
goes
want to
back
die.
and he's like, oh, you know what? You know what I told him? I said, you better shoot me right in this boomerang.
Oh, man. Patience, what's been up with you?
Oh, geez. Other than watching my husband play the Spider-Man game, and he will not let me play it.
Over. Beat him up.
In your defense,
we might be getting a divorce soon. Just saying.
In his defense, Patience, you do not have the Y chromosome necessary to actually play this game effectively.
Wow.
Oh.
I would like to point out you are, like, going to meet her very soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On second thought, you know what? I'll bring you my copy. You can play it.
Snakes
your
in your
digital.
bed.
Wow, I didn't know this podcast was the
getting.
Unapologetic Jerk Out, so...
Hey.
Oh, snap.
Hey. Only half of this one is jerks.
First of all, I just want to point out that I'm number 19 in the whole entire world as far as beating Ruby Weapon in 2 minutes and 37 seconds in Final Fantasy VII. So let's not discount my X chromosomes.
So, a world record in a 20-year-old game.
That was so impressive. I wish...
But it was a world record 20 years ago.
I really wish.
Yeah, and I probably watch a speed run that's faster right now.
Did any of you guys beat Ruby Weapon? Yeah.
Nick doesn't even know what that
I don't know
is.
what you're talking about. So this
I was 7 when that game
one-upsmanship is
came out.
really
Thank
not
you.
working.
You guys, oh my god. My god.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been watching a lot of obscure horror films, getting ready for Fantastic Fest, watching a lot of Fantastic Fest screeners.
Dude, I have to talk to you about Shudder for a minute.
Oh, dude, Shudder's, like, I've been watching a lot of Shudder lately.
I just informed Nick that we've had Shudder for actually a while now.
So I was looking on there.
all-
I was looking on there just on all the titles, and I was like, pig and shit with all these great like horror movies and stuff. I was like, yes! And then I tried to watch some, and what the fuck is going on? Because
I'm still not sure if it's Shudder itself or just Verve being shitty.
maybe because I tried to like watch Lake Placid, unavailable. I tried to watch Anaconda, unavailable. Try to watch In the Mouth of Madness, unavailable. Like,
Okay, but
That's
Nick, those first two, why would you want to
really
watch those
strange.
two?
What are you
Because
talking
they're
about?
amazing. Oh my
Thank
god,
you,
Placid
Patience.
really?
sucks balls.
How dare you?
I have no pick in this fight because I was trying to watch it, but then it wasn't available.
That's really strange. Do you think it's like is because you're so close to Canada that you're maybe like regionally locked out?
I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin's far down south enough that he's not
No,
crossing borders.
they're in Saskatchewan right now. I know it.
They're in Ontario. They're
I
speaking
actually-
French, you know.
I'm surprised that they're even speaking English.
Yeah, gosh dang Quebec and
See,
French
the thing
speaking.
is that I can see Sarah Palin's backyard from my backyard.
Oh God. Honestly,
know?
I would contact Shudder customer service, because like I've never had a problem with Shudder.
Well,
Like we're
not using Shudder itself. We have I have a subscription from a service called Verve, which has a bunch of different subscriptions added onto it.
Okay.
Yeah, you might want to double check.
Okay,
that's
so
the
that's
reason.
actually a problem because you can get Shudder through other subscription services, and when you do that, sometimes those particular movies will be locked out. And
Okay.
Amazon Prime has the exact same problem. If you subscribe to Shudder through Amazon Prime, it's the same price, but you will not get all of the movies that Shudder offers. So you should
fuck?
cancel that through Verve and just, it's $5 a month, guys.
No,
And
it's not
so
even
just
that
go
because
through-
this service I pay $30 flat for everything I have, which includes
okay.
which includes
That's why.
Funimation, Crunchyroll, Nerdist, and everything else. So
We just got
Yeah,
all the
that's
Nicktoons.
why.
We watched the Cat Dog.
yeah, we can watch there's Rock with Modern Life now, and Cat Dog, and Doug is fucking on there.
Yeah,
Man,
that
I
was
miss
great.
all those cartoons so much.
Legends of the Hidden Temple, y'all.
Yep.
Legends of the Hidden
Oh my
fucking
God.
I think
Talk
the
about
Amanda Show is on
your
there now.
guys' childhood.
It
Seriously.
is our childhood.
Temple. Also, Cat Dog's a little weirder than I remember.
But we only
Cat
watched the
Dog
first
is
episode.
bizarre. It's actually very adult if you think about certain parts of it.
Well, we watched it, and they had the Looney Tunes sketch of them pretending like Cat is always the girl in any of their disguises.
Oh, yep.
And it's weird because they keep sometimes they're like couples, like they'll imagine themselves as king and queen, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're like brothers, right?
Yeah.
Like they were born that way. They weren't surgically made into a cat dog. They're brothers, right?
Yeah.
So that's weird. I don't like
twins.
that.
So wait, you're saying that's
Siamese
weirder than
twins?
the fact that they share the same stomach, but they clearly have no genitals and no way to use the bathroom?
I'm just saying if they're going to insinuate that they're in a relationship, that I would wish they were surgically attached rather than siblings.
Jeez.
So
Look, being connected at the same body is one thing to nail. Incest is too far.
I just
What
always
were
am
we talking
intrigued
about?
by Rancid Rabbit in that show. Just the why, that dude.
I like how he has a different job every episode.
Oh, he's
Like,
pretty much he's the red guy from Cow and Chicken, but different. You know, like where he's
Is he running around doing all these different jobs, or does he have multiple, like, is he like Nurse Joy and like an Officer Jenny?
No idea.
Like, does he run around, like, they have
No,
like
but see,
multiple
like Nurse
siblings
Joy
or
and Officer
something?
Jenny, they established they actually have like thousands of siblings apparently and cousins.
Yeah.
So
Right, and he's a rabbit, and not to stereotype, but like, I mean, he probably has a bunch of siblings, right?
Probably.
can you be
that racist?
stereotyping when it's
Is that
something
animalist?
that's true?
Like, I don't know. So, anyway, Patience, what you've been getting ready for Fantastic Fest? I'm going to be heading down there pretty soon.
Yeah, I'll
gonna
see
find
you in a
snakes in
couple
your bed now.
days. Mm-hmm. Yeah, snakes in your bed.
You excited for the Halloween premiere?
Oh yeah. Also, we're having a big Halloween party, so you might want to bring a costume because it's gonna be fun.
I so
and also,
want to visit. Oh,
it's gonna be amazing. And then they just announced Final Wave day before yesterday, and guess who our Final Wave closing night band is gonna be, Nick?
Who is it?
Tenacious D.
Oh, so that's why they're premiering their new animated show because we talked about that on the yeah, okay.
Yep.
So, I have a sad story, and it involves a subscription service. I've been using Hopper to find flights, and I will be leaving a day early from the fest.
Dun, dun, dun.
And the reason I'm doing so was to shave like $120 off of my ticket. And at this point, they had not released the final schedule for Fantastic Fest. So I was like, well, I'm only missing the last day, and I don't really know what I'm going to miss. And like $120, like I could have used it. And now I know what I'm going to miss. It's Tenacious D, the Good Times at the Casino Royale, or whatever that movie's called.
Bad Times at the El Royale.
Bad Times at the El
We all know
Royale.
which one you meant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah.
Good
Which
Times
was
at
like,
Casino Royale
shit.
is just my experience watching that James Bond movie.
So I was like, shit. Like, out of the two movies, like, it was Halloween and that movie that I really wanted to see. And I'm going to miss the Don Quixote movie.
Yep.
Okay, I'm so curious about that one.
And just so you know that the closing night party is completely open bar. There's like free food, free drinks, free tattoos, Tenacious D. Yeah.
And you're going to miss it.
And that's worth $120 just on its own.
Well, that and I wanted to make sure I didn't use up all my vacation days since I'll be doing New York Comic Con right after that too.
That's true. Whatever.
All right.
We're gonna be sad. We're gonna be sad to see you go.
That's disappointing. But yes, look for my coverage of Fantastic Fest and all in New York and stuff. After that, I'll be covering it for That's My E. That's My Entertainment, and whatever I don't use for there will be used for the UGO podcast or a sundry, and it'll go up somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, let's get into the main story of the show. Unless anyone has anything from this week they'd like to talk about.
I mean, I went to Comic-Con last week in Salt Lake City. That was really fun.
Okay. Yes, you were saying that while we were doing the breakfast pub this week. Said you got to meet the werepony himself, Stephen Ogg. That's fun.
Oh, yeah. No, he was really cool. I got to meet... speaking of Cow and Chicken, like I mentioned earlier, one of the people I did mention to you guys that I met, Charlie Adler. I met the dude who did all the voices on Cow and Chicken, or a bunch of the voices on Real Monsters, and he's... If you look at his list, he's got, like... He was in all the cartoons we watched, at least Nick, Travis, and I, during the 90s. Like, he was in, like, every single one of those cartoons. It was really, really cool. Mm-hmm. And that was one of those... it's one of those sad stories where he was there and there weren't really anybody in his line at that hour because it was early morning Saturday. And I felt kind of bad where I'm like, this guy is really talented and no one's paying attention to him. So I just we were waiting in line for David Hayter to get his autograph. So I just walked over and just like, hey, Mr. Adler, how you doing? And he just perked up. He's like, oh yeah, yes, new person. Hey, how you doing? But super chill dude. And then, meeting Brent Spiner, meeting David Hayter. I got to go to... So, a fun thing they do at Salt Lake Comic-Con, every year they do a thing called Twisted Tunes. Have you heard about this?
Yes, it's the voice actor script reads, right?
Yes, so they take a famous movie script, and they have all the voice actors who come to the convention, or at least the ones who are available, come in and do a line read as different versions of their characters for the role. So it's like, oh yeah, one of the funniest things we saw this whole year, it was David Hayter and Jess Harnell, the guy who does Wacko from the Animaniacs. And
yes.
David Hayter was reading Belle as Matthew McConaughey, and Jess Harnell was reading Beast as Cartman from South Park. So hearing them talk to each other as Belle and Beast in these voices, the audience was rolling, just like, all right, now hold still there, Beast. I am holding still. Shut up, Belle. You just the video should be up. Like usually they come up with a video like a month later or something like that, but it's really really funny. They had like freaking Vic Mignogna was there, from Full Metal Alchemist.
Nice.
Like Salt Lake Comic Con is becoming one of the big Comic Cons in the circuit. Like it's one where the celebrities love going to it, the fans love going to it. It actually promotes comics, not just movie stuff. There's actually like a comic convention with figurines and books and everything else like that. It's a really, really fun, big, crowded, and entertaining experience,
Yeah, they're going to have to change their name since the San Diego Comic-Con thing.
Which, screw you, San Diego. Just God. You guys are that insecure that Salt Lake City is bleeding out your attendance? I'm sorry, but, this convention I went to in fall, it's not even called Comic-Con. It's called FanX. But everyone knows what it is because it's a comic convention. Just...
So yeah, like this San Diego Comic-Con is like copyrighted the word con or Comic-Con specifically.
Yeah,
really?
So any variation of the word. You can't use K's for comic. You can't have a Comic-Con as one word. You can't do any variation of that.
Okay.
That's pretty shitty.
They've copyrighted the shortened version for a convention. That is so weird. So yeah. That is very exciting. I am very jealous of you, Justin. I was thinking of you as I try and one-up you in New York.
I'm sure you will. But hey, at least I was there with my girlfriend, too, so that made it more fun.
Oh, great. What a more romantic place I cannot think of.
Hey, this was her idea, to be fair, so she is even more awesome because she is even nerdier than me in some ways.
Look, I love a girl that's into Nerd Sweat and Axe body spray. Like, that's her vibe. I get it.
Yeah. We're already planning our cosplay for another Comic-Con, so there you go.
That's fantastic. I always do a light cosplay for like Mass Effect and stuff to just run around my recording equipment. But I've been told that I'm not allowed to do that for New York, so I got to wear some business stuff. Yeah, I'm going to be on camera for it for a little bit. Oh. So I got to do some on-camera coaching, and I got to dress, I'm told, business casual, which I don't know what that is, but I'm going to figure it out.
Basically, it's like, button-up shirts, sometimes jeans, but usually go with khaki slacks. Business casual is what I do for work when I was working at a call center. So
basically, anytime you go to like a family gathering, you expect to dress up nice. That.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, you're not going there for like a suit, but you have to look nicer than just shirts and pants.
Wisconsin formal wear. Got it. Anyway, that was exciting. Anyone else have anything they want to bring up? Yo, yes. Patience.
I mean, we've been reviewing a bunch of movies for oneofus.net, which you all should listen to. So,
yes.
Oh yeah, definitely take a look at the Screener Squad, where I partook in, and the Breakfast Pub for this week. Me and Travis are both on for Justin.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so and that's almost done editing, so it'll be up probably around the time this is up, if not before. So.
And also, you should definitely subscribe to One of Us, listeners, if you got the extra cash to do so, because they have some really great shows on their servers and their forums and stuff. If you even subscribe at even like the $5 level, you get a lot of cool shit.
No, even better. Even the $2 level, you get some really cool stuff. So,
even just $2, and that's like a month, so that's like nothing.
Yeah.
Like they had the Gathering in which it turned into a Pot Against Evil ad or Stand Against Evil ad for like 5 to 10 minutes, which was really cool. which was led by our friend Patience over here that has now converted half the One of Us crew to watch Dan Against Evil.
I have an agenda.
You're doing the Lord's work, Patience.
Just the Lord's work, yeah. We appreciate you. The owls not only abide, they approve.
Also, Patience, I did. I was listening. In fact, when you called me out on the last podcast, so
dude, I have so much love for all of you guys. You have no idea.
Oh yeah,
I'm always like, I always got your backs.
Oh, I know.
And we got your backs, P. We got you,
P. PRC.
Hey.
I've been trying to, I'm trying to do nicknames for people. I tried Patience as for P. It's just not real. It's not happening. I don't think it's gonna work.
Let me give you a rundown of my nicknames from the past. Okay, so my family calls me Poshy.
Wow, that's awful.
That sounds like they wanted a dog.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
or just Posh. My friends, I go through phases. So it starts out as P-Dog.
Ooh, that's also awful. I don't like that.
And then that changed from P-Dog to P-Dizzle.
Even worse. Wow, this is
Did my dad come up with your nicknames?
Show.
Jeez.
I know. And then it was Puff the Magic Dizzle.
Oh no.
That's amazing.
We've gone into Kanye West territory.
And now it's just Diz. So I feel like I'm in a Starship Trooper movie. I don't know.
That feels like
Diz
the evolution
sounds like a villain
of
name.
the nicknames in World's End. It's like Boo Boo and Yogi and that kind of stuff when they're doing that whole speech.
I mean, you guys, I'm putting it into your hands. Please give me, a nickname that doesn't suck.
I don't know. I guess Diz is the default there. Although it makes me think that your character arc will be complete after you sleep with a man and then will die because you are no longer useful.
But
Starship Troopers may not be as femme.
I got to have you. I got to have you, right, Johnny? Sorry.
Are you saying Starship? I'm starting to think that Starship Troopers may not be as feminist as one might think.
No.
Shockingly enough.
I mean, they show naked guys and naked girls, so it's somewhat fair in some ways, but they're incredibly
just for
progressive
straight guys and
co-ed
gay guys.
showers.
There's a difference.
Speaking of, we're going to be talking about one of those guys later. Gary Busey's kid. Jake Busey. Yeah. I was so shocked to see him in The Predator. I was like, holy shit, Jake, where you been, buddy?
And then
he's actually
Stranger Things, so.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's true.
I was going to say, where have you been? Because it's obviously not been acting class. You haven't gotten any better at all, have you?
He actually, funny enough, he's actually playing Gary Busey's son.
That's what I figured.
Not that the movie gives you any time to figure that out, to be fair. But
20 seconds.
But I'll tell you what, before we get into that, I would like to discuss with you, if we want to move on to the main topic, of just the Predator franchise in general.
Oh, I thought we were just here to hang out. I didn't know we were actually going to talk about anything.
No, the hanging out segment is gone. We are now fully business mode.
Business mode, yep.
Yeah, it is all it's cutthroat and real structured from here on out. So
I should not open this beer then.
So you should
about that nickname,
it's
Patience.
actually imperative that you do so. We only allow a certain level of sobriety, and Justin takes care of it. So we all got to drink
for
to
5
compensate.
people, to be fair. So.
He balances us out.
Right. So yeah, we all need to be a little more tipsy just so that we can make up for Justin's lack of drunkenness. So
my liver is a lot healthier for it, so there we go.
Yeah, but your soul just isn't as happy.
Look, we're from Wisconsin. Beer is actually an antidepressant here. Just face it.
I mean, it's basically the state motto is self-medicate. Anyway, I would like to talk to you guys about the Predator films. I'm assuming most of the people around here have seen most of them, other than Travis. Travis, have you seen one?
Yes.
Okay, but you haven't seen two.
I'm pretty sure I have seen two. I just don't really remember much
don't
from
remember it. Okay. Well, I'm assuming that Justin and Patience, have you seen them all?
Actually,
I've seen.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, no, you go.
Okay, well, I've seen the first one, obviously, but then second one I actually just bought on Blu-ray. I've never actually watched it, and then I also bought Predators on Blu-ray because it was cheap for like $5-6 in a discount bargain bin. So I've not seen those two, but I've seen chunks of them through like review clips and stuff online. It, kind of thing. But Patience, I'm assuming you've seen them all, right?
No, I've seen all of the Predators. I haven't seen the Alien versus Predators, though. I've only seen, like, the first 20 minutes of the first one, and that was pretty much it. So, those are the only ones go ahead.
That means I'm the only one here that's seen them all. That's interesting.
That's not surprising, because the other ones are bad, and you like bad movies.
I don't even like the Alien versus Predator movies. I mean, the first one is not as terrible as you might think. Like, there's some stuff in here.
But that's also to say that's pretty terrible, so.
Requiem is a piece of shit. Like, Alien vs. Predator Requiem is just terrible.
Wasn't Requiem the one where they, like, do that weird, creepy kill with the pregnant lady in that one? Which is like...
Yes, they, the alien predator, the Pred-Alien, as they call it, impregnates... a pregnant woman with an alien, and then the aliens eat the baby, and like 5 aliens pop out of the pregnant woman.
Jeez.
Because that's how aliens... And he does that to an entire a maternity ward. Which, yeah, so like...
So you're saying that this is a movie I should watch?
So, Patience, you scare me when you say that.
Patience, you might be into it.
It sounds amazing.
The one thing, though, Patience, is it does not have any sign language talking gorillas. So there's that.
Fuck it. And fuck that shit.
I mean, it has to go down a star for like that, but so few movies do attain that level of perfection. Anyway, we're not talking about Congo. We're not talking about Congo here. We're talking about a different jungle. So the first Predator film. I love it. I love it in the way that it can come around like even say Top Gun, where when it first comes out, it's just everyone perceives it as a great science fiction movie.
Yeah.
And now, as we come around to it, it actually is kind of almost a parody of 80s action films in a way. And it actually gets away with a lot of its macho, machismo lines by being so over the top that it becomes, like, classic still. Like, all the quotable lines are from the first Predator movie. Stick around. Get to the chopper. If it bleeds, we could kill it.
And they're pretty much all from Schwarzenegger.
Mm-hmm. I Ain't Got Time to Bleed. Which is interesting, because that movie was also, I believe, either co-written or written fully by Shane Black.
I believe so.
So a lot of those lines... No,
I think he mostly just did punch up. Like, he didn't actually write most of the script.
Yeah, okay. And he was involved in the writing, but I don't remember what he did. So he did some punch up lines there. He was in it as Billy? No, that was the Indian guy.
He was in it as dude who was not as muscular as everyone else in the movie.
He was the bad joke guy.
And he plays that character as the screenwriter of this movie, so...
Mm-hmm. So, wow, Justin really leaving his review there on the table.
Well, here's the thing, Nick. Here's the thing. I kind of like this movie, so Justin has to balance it up by not liking it.
Right.
It's actually required at this point.
Well, we're not quite there yet. So,
don't you tell me a review yet? Jeez.
How does everyone else feel about the first Predator film? First of all,
I'm absolutely in love with the first Predator. That's probably, I mean, when I think classic, oh my god, this was a movie that kind of shaped my childhood. I'm going to say 1987 Predator is definitely up there. Excuse me, along with Conan, Highlander. I mean, these are all movies that are, oh, shut up. I heard that.
I didn't say anything.
I didn't say nothing either.
These are all movies that, I mean, Aliens, come on, guys. Predator is right there.
Yeah, I agree. Travis, do you have anything to add on that?
I think for that one, the reason I prefer Alien versus Predator is because I think Aliens can't, like, that one was consistent with what it was. Like, it's still, like, a really great sci-fi horror movie, whereas Predator kind of changed, like you said, kind of like a Top Gun-esque thing, where it's like, now it is kind of more of a parody of itself, even just watching it. But that's not necessarily bad, because it's still
I
like
think it works for it.
No, that it actually makes it more impressive because it makes it a little bit more timeless than a lot of those other movies that came out at that time. Where it's like, no, I can still watch this for a different reason. I like it, but that's still fine.
Yeah, I would agree. And then, so obviously it was a big enough success that they decided to franchise out. You said You said you liked Shane Black's writing on it. Or do you have anything to add, Justin?
I was just saying, like, the first Predator movie I really like a lot, too. I saw that, like, the first time... I actually saw it, like, 2 years ago for the first time. And it's just... you see, and I don't think it's fully a self-parody of itself. But, you know, it's just a really solid movie. I mean, it's a movie that's, if anything, is just parodying old Schwarzenegger films, and it's like, yeah, forget all that. This is the movie we're actually doing now, kind of thing. Which I thought that was a great 180 twist that movie pulled off, you know, really organically.
Yeah, you would almost want to go into it as cold as possible if you've never seen it before,
you know,
so
even
that
better,
it can kind of
just
surprise.
Don't watch the first minute of the movie. The movie really starts the minute after the movie starts, because you don't want to know the spoiler of the beginning of the film.
Right. And yeah, I agree with that. Obviously, the film had great success. They wanted to, you know, they franchised out. They decided to make Predator 2. Set this one in the city, which was interesting. Like, it's interesting how they can kind of take it's like any other horror franchise in which they take a vacation with a concept. This time it's a Predator in a concrete jungle rather than an actual jungle. And it's interesting because it's actually interesting how the Predator... There's no established version of a Predator film. The Predator is kind of just dropped in on certain other movies. Like, the Predator just drops into this war 80s film in the first one, and now he's dropped into this cop film in the second one. And in a lot of ways, I think Predator 2 is actually a better movie than Predator 1. But it is, like Travis was saying before, it is what it sacrifices is its memorable lines, because it doesn't go so over the top. Danny Glover plays it a lot more down to earth. Bill Paxton is a lot more of a, he's funny, but he's not as redonkulous like as he was even as what's his name in Aliens as a character. He's not all over the place chewing scenery.
Hudson,
that's what it is. Yes, game over, man, game over. Yeah, there's none of that. But it actually it expands the mythology of the Predators, and it has like more of a nuanced relationship between Danny Glover and his cop friends, to where the point where when they die, I actually feel more for them than anyone in the first Predator movie. I'm like, oh, I'm actually sad that these guys are dying, because the first movie, while awesome, the guys don't feel like actual human characters.
They're kind
to
of
me.
caricatures, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Though, to be fair, the guys in the first movie feel like they could take on a Predator, compared to most people in Predator movies.
Right, like that. Well, that was the whole thing, was that it was a whole movie built up of the most Rambo-ist of Rambo people. Like, it's weird that Sylvester Stallone isn't in it. And of course, JCVD was supposed to be in it as the guy in the Predator suit, but he had to bow out.
Well, also because that costume he was wearing in the first version was ridiculous.
Yeah, man, you got to go back and check some of the early footage they shot with it, because we almost had a very different Predator. Yeah, so I actually, I go back and forth, but I actually really like the Predator 2 movie, which I know is not as a prolific as an opinion, but I enjoyed it. Patience, what are your feelings on Predator 2?
Oh, wow. I mean, this is kind of like Predator in Manhattan, and I do equate it with, like, Jason in Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
This movie was pretty terrible. I am not a fan. And it's funny because we have a lot of really great personalities. We have Danny Glover, we have Gary Busey, we have Maria Conchita Alonso, Bill Paxton, and even Adam Baldwin. I mean, there's some great actors in this, but I feel like the plot kind of failed me. I feel like they were just sort of riding that, 80s, 90s wave of like, hey, let's make a sequel because that's what we're supposed to do, kind of thing. And this one was not successful, in my opinion.
Okay, well, that was some harsh criticism.
I'm sorry, Nick.
That's all right.
Cut him down. Cut him down.
I'm sorry.
Travis and
I have strong opinions.
Justin, have you watched Predator? You have not watched Predator 2, correct?
Nope.
Yeah, you still have it in the DVD case. So I guess we'll just move on to
it's just yours versus patient's opinion.
Look, I guess the next films canonically are the Alien versus Predator films, and I rather just skip them. Like they don't really add anything to the Predator mythology other than making the Predators kind of the de facto good guys, which is on paper it's a smart decision to do, to give us a hero Predator to kind of switch things up. But still, they only do it at the very end, and it doesn't really come to a whole lot.
Yeah, and then in the beginning of the film, you watch two Predators just axed off immediately in the beginning, like a minute after each other. It makes them like, wow, are the Predators just kind of sucky in this movie?
Yeah, they portray the Predators as not being very intimidating without their guns. And one alien takes two out, and you're kind of like, that's a problem. There's like a dozen aliens. I don't understand. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of that one. I do like the idea of making Predators kind of, while not maybe good guys, like the lesser of two evils. So that's kind of neat. And that, that one had such small stakes too, because they're in Antarctica, and say the aliens get out, can they survive in, I suppose they can survive in cold. They can survive in space.
Yeah, until they run into the thing in the station nearby. That's going to be obviously where that sequel's going.
Yeah, and Alien vs. Predator Requiem is just a dumpster fire. So there's that. And I liked it because in Alien vs. Predator Requiem, there's a scene where the Predator is a Predator is sent down to cover up after a crashed ship that's carrying the Pred alien in it, and he dissolves the ship by using this weird liquid acid nanometal or whatever. But yet he kills some guy that comes upon him and then puts their bodies up trophy style. And I'm like, whoa, if you're trying to be clandestine and burying evidence, why are you hanging up bodies for people to find?
Well, that movie and this movie clearly show that the Predators are just really bad at being undercover or being negotiable in any way.
No, I feel like they're actually just they just kill people oh shit, no, sorry, crap.
It must be their initial instinct is to murder.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That's my father speaking.
just one stab. Just one stab. That's all I need, man. Just one stab. Yeah. That's all going to be good.
So that brings us to what I feel is the true Predator sequel, the Aliens to the Alien, which is Predators. Now, this one is also a controversial opinion because I really like Predators. I think it's a solid movie.
We had this argument already, Patience.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of really cool characters in it, that stick around, and I like them enough to where when they bite it, I'm like, damn it, I kind of want to know more about that guy. And they introduce a new, uglier, nastier Predator. The effects are really good. The action is really nice. It's got some pretty sick kills with a lot of really cool heroic moments, especially our Spetsnaz Russian soldier guy who gets to kill fucking Predator with Claymore.
Yeah, but then chubby Lawrence Fishburne somehow survives a whole massacre of other people, too. It's like, wait.
Yeah.
What's interesting, they explain that in a prequel comic. That's very interesting.
Really? If it's not in the movie, it doesn't count. That's my rule.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you in that point is, the film is by no means perfect. Lawrence Fisher pops up in the story and then dips out into the story while adding not a whole lot to it narratively, other than just a thing to do in the middle while the second act is just happening.
You mean other than fucking everybody over?
Well, yeah, that was his thing. He's a scavenger. That's basically what he does that all the time. That's how he's collected a bunch of gear and shit, and how he survived is that's what he does every season is he grabs whoever the Predators don't kill and he fucks them.
Not literally.
Literally.
Yeah.
No, literally.
I mean,
literally
I don't want to assume.
Let's face it. He's there alone.
He's lonely.
Chances are he's fucked at least one of them.
I'm going to rule it out. So,
we all lower our standards, at times.
Also, I feel like there's a deleted scene with Topher Grace's character that I felt should have been kept in the movie, because the whole time, if you're watching the Predator film and you know them in any way, you're like, okay, so why is Topher Grace there? and you can only assume some sort of turn is coming with him. And you're like, okay, so I kind of know what is coming here. There's a deleted scene that shows that, he has killed people, but it was kind of like he was under the influence of medical drugs or something. They made him his motivation a little more sympathetic so that the turn with his character is not so predictable. But, otherwise, I actually really like the designs of the Predators. I like the practical effect work. I think the samurai sequence between what's his name, Yakuza guy, and the Falconeer Predator is fucking awesome, and it makes me want a samurai Predator movie.
That would be pretty awesome.
Like that would be
like
really
a historical Predator movie.
Well, it shows that they've been here in different time periods. Like in Predator 2, it shows them like he's got like a flintlock pistol.
Yeah,
so like they've obviously been here like before in a while. So you could do a Predator movie in any time period, really. Ooh, which reminds me, there's some shorts online that if you're into Predator, there's a one short that shows them him taking out people in Vietnam, which is pretty fun. It has one of my favorite things ever, where of course the two people have to team up to fight the Predator together. A Viet Cong and an American trooper have to like team up and fight together because it's like, that's shit. Cool. So I like that one, and also there's a Crusader one in the like Knights Templar. Like there's a
okay,
yeah, they have to fight him with crossbows and broadswords.
But do they explain how they're so outmatched with technology and they can still beat him though?
Well, the thing is with the shorts, how it always ends is that the Predator rips the shit out of them, and then whoever is finally left, he faces in one-on-one combat, stripped down. Like that's his MO. Like that's what he does. So usually in the short, it ends with them both dying, or the person getting one over on the Predator. At least the shorts that I've seen. Like that's how it usually ends. When you run into a Predator, it's rare you get a happy ending. Apparently.
Fair.
But so I do like the Predators films. Travis, I know you were a fan as well.
Yeah, I mean, this one is one that I actually feel like I have to watch again to give a solid review on it, but I do remember enjoying it when I watched it in the theaters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have a whole lot of meat to it, but I think it's a nice, lean sci-fi flick.
Yeah, it's one of those that I remember like, oh wow, Predator's coming back. I could live with that. That's fine. Yeah.
In any film, like, we always need more Walton Goggins in our life. So you can always just throw that in there, man. Patience, obviously, you have a differing opinion on the Predators film.
Well, I mean, I think that I got my hopes up a lot about this film because I was like, yeah, finally we're getting a new Predators film that's not in Manhattan. It's produced by Troublemaker. It's shot here in Austin. I was like, this is going to be amazing. And then it had Topher Grace in it. And then and Lawrence Fishburne. So I did like the concept of it, but I think that along with a lot of other people, I feel like we all had this general consensus. If they would have kept it on Earth, it would have been a much better movie.
No way. That was one of the coolest things. That was one of the coolest things about it was that it was on an alien planet.
Yeah,
and then how fucked they were. Like, oh shit! Even if we somehow beat these Predators, we are still screwed.
You're still on a foreign planet. You can't do anything.
I mean, in most of these movies, well, chances of them dying are so high anyway. What's the difference whether they're on an alien planet or not?
So I thought they didn't do enough with that. They only had one other alien to hunt.
Yeah,
they should have had other shit in there that they were hunting, like other sentient aliens that the Predators were also hunting.
Well, I think that's the problem with Predators 2 is there's no hope. And you need to have. And
they bring hope. That's what Lawrence Fishburne brings to the movie is hope.
Yeah, it's the chance.
Brings the ship.
Turns around and kills it and tries to kill everybody.
But yeah, he brings the concept. He brings the concept of the ship, and then that's what Adrian Brody goes for. And then he realizes that he's not as cold as he thinks. You know what? I'm not going to go through the whole character arc of Adrian Brody. He has one. Arnold Schwarzenegger does not. Arnold Schwarzenegger does not learn anything in the Predators movie.
Yeah, but I feel like that makes Arnold interesting in the fact that his whole thing is to learn how to fight, to take down someone who is clearly outmatched him. Or it's like Arnold has been the dominator for so long that to see someone who's even more powerful a predator than he is, that's his arc,
Okay, I'll give you that, but barely. Danny Glover and Danny Glover even doesn't learn that big of a lesson, but he does learn one about taking the job too personal and taking the job too far. But even then, his lesson does not get learned at the end, because he just goes after the predator no matter what anyway. I'm sorry, I interrupted your point, Patience. What else were you saying?
Oh, I thought that I'm pretty much done. Yeah, I thought that it would have been a better movie had it been taken place on Earth, and I thought the cast was kind of terrible. I think Adrian Brody needs to get a better agent, and because he's an amazing actor, I just don't think he's making really good choices, and I don't see him as an action star. And this is an action movie. It's not a Predator film.
Okay, and now that's where we're going to get into a contentious argument here, is what pertains a Predator film. Because I feel, and we'll talk about the new Predator film as well. I don't feel like there is an established quote unquote Predator film. Like, they've been so different every time. Everyone expects something different from a Predator film, and I think I'm one of the weirdest people on Earth, because I'm the only one that's liked almost every Predator movie, not counting the ones with aliens in them. So like I like when they take the concept seriously. I like with Predators. I like when they get a little more goofy, like with Predator 2. And that brings us to the new film, The Predator.
The Predator.
So this is the new Predator film, directed by Shane Black, and who else was he working with on this one? It's the guy, not the
Fred Deckard.
Fred Decker.
Yeah, the Monster Squad guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah. So that's why it's set in Halloween, which not Christmas this time.
Yeah, I'm sure Shane Black, you could feel him just like, can we set it in Christmas?
Can we set maybe?
Please?
But
can we say Christmas is around the corner? No.
So we'll try and keep it spoiler free for the first part of this, but then at a certain point we will give a spoiler warning, and we will just get into spoilers for this one because I want to talk about it. So this movie is basically Predator ship crashes down on Earth, and our hero, played by the guy from Narcos, whose name I cannot remember.
I don't think anyone in this cast had a name. They're just dude number 2, dude number 3, and then lady.
Boyd Holbrook, and you are forgetting about Thomas Jane, my friend.
No.
Yes!
Thomas Jane, Keegan-Michael Key, Boyd Holbrook, Olivia Munn. You know, they have a top-notch. Sterling K. Brown in this. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So Boyd Holbrook is a sniper. That the fucking alien ship crashes on top of him and his team basically during a mission, and him and his team get fucked up by a predator, and he has to what I really like about this opening too is we see our hero Boyd be very smart about they're gonna he feels like he's been through something like this before, maybe not with an alien,
but something that very much a snafu situation.
Like he's had to be disappeared by Black Ops before. We're oh yeah, they're gonna totally disavow me and get rid of all this evidence and whatnot. So I gotta mail some evidence to my kid as collateral, or mail some evidence to a PO box, so I have some collateral when they try.
Maybe you should have checked if he paid his bills before he left on this mission. I'll just say.
Well, yeah. I mean, I like that too because I also don't remember when you pay bills, how long do you let things go before you're oh wait, that automatic payment wasn't paying things anymore? Shit. And so yeah, it does not go to the PO box. It goes to his kid, who of course is an autistic superhero because in movies, autism now gives you superpowers.
Yeah, apparently autism can allow you to translate alien languages. Yeah. in a few hours.
So. Or at least get the gist of it, I guess. There's this what's it called? Stargazer Black Ops group that are studying predators, which is a very interesting concept. They know that the predators have been around and they've been tracking them.
Well, because they established that
while.
Predator 1 and 2 are canon because they're once in 1987 and once in 97. So
yeah. say that the visits have been becoming more frequent. They've been getting weirder. There's something going on with the predators that is like there's some sort of conflict that the humans are just not pertained to for whatever reason. And the film progresses to get like where the humans just get more and more screwed as more and more things kind of go wrong with the predators, showing up and just throwing a whole monkey wrench because they're getting chased by the Stargazer people as well. Since Boyd Holbrook, the sniper, is just in this bus with a bunch of these crazy people, Group 2, that are all in the loony bin for whatever, like a multitude of different reasons. And this was fun because it's basically like the A-Team versus the Predator. And I think what you have to understand going in this movie is that the third final trailer of this movie is much more of an accurate representation of what the movie is, other than the other trailers, which made it seem much more of a serious, kind of scary Predator film. Mm-hmm. It's way sillier than that. Like, it's not quite a satire of itself, but it is approaching that. Of being very self-aware of like, this is pretty silly.
Okay,
like,
we should probably let Justin go off now.
Like, well,
no, I'm waiting.
I would like to go this because I'm going to preface this because I would like to liken this film to another film that I liked that is probably going to split audiences. Because I know when I saw how funny the first part of this film was, I was like, Predator fans gonna hate this. And what it reminded me of was The Last Jedi, in which it's a film that makes fun of its own premise of and I think the real reason that a lot of people really don't like The Last Jedi is because The Last Jedi is kind of like Star Wars films are kind of stupid, right? Let's lean into that. And
yes, tell your fan base how much that they're stupid for liking their own property. That's always a good tack to go with.
No, it never says the fans are stupid. It says what I've known from the beginning, that the Jedi are terrible. The Jedi are objectively the worst people around.
Not talking about Star Wars.
But we're not going to talk about the Jedi. We're talking about Predator. And the thing that the Shane Black understands about the Predator is that I cannot take this concept seriously. Like, we are going to have to do some jokey jokes here in order to get through this and make this an action comedy. But
why can't he take it seriously? We've done it in two other movies.
Because he's Shane Black and he doesn't do that. Like, I don't understand why you get Shane Black to direct a Predator movie if you didn't want this to happen.
Yeah, I don't know why they even asked him. They're just like, well, he's in the first Predator movie. He's like, yeah, as a punch-up writer for jokes. So
you get him because you want to do something different with a franchise and shake it up. And what they do to shake it up is just make it an action comedy for. I'll tell you right now, that has advantages and it has disadvantages. And I am not as queenie as one might be about the Predator franchise, even though I do like it. And I was trying to think maybe it's because I don't hold the Predator franchise so deep and dear to my heart that I don't mind them just making kind of fun of it and really not taking it as seriously. So I was trying to think of a franchise that I do love unequivocally that they would make. It's like, what if they made Mass Effect super silly? Like it made an installment of Mass Effect like super silly and didn't take it seriously at all. And then I thought, no,
wait, you mean like Andromeda did? Or
no, not Andromeda. Andromeda was like basically...
No, that's a dumpster fire. It's a completely different thing.
That was a development problem. What I'm thinking is they did the Citadel DLC, and that's my favorite deal. That's my favorite part of Mass Effect.
Oh no, that one's great, but you don't take it seriously as part of the plot of the game.
Yeah, it is still kind of a side story.
Yeah, but why not? Like, this is just a side story of the Predator franchise. It's a grand story. So what's the harm if we take one story?
I think you're comparing apples to oranges in this example.
Why not?
Yeah, that's not a very good comparison.
Citadel is its own complete story. It's its own movie in a whole franchise. It's like if they did a TV movie off of a TV series. So what?
Yeah, but Citadel, the difference is you don't need to play Citadel to get enjoyment out of Mass Effect 3. That's the whole thing. It's that it is it's pretty much an X-Files one-off, one shot.
And you don't need to watch the other Predator films to enjoy this movie either.
But this one actually, you don't, but it does directly reference the other films as being part of the canon, so it is established to being in the same universe of those films.
So?
I feel like your comparison would be more like a movie having a blooper reel than an actual full-on movie.
No, I don't think so. Like, this movie, it just is doing a different genre. And I think the Predator films, they're all a different. Like, one's a cop movie.
Oh, you're not wrong on that part. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying you're.
So I don't see why it's a big deal to just go sillier with this. Like, if that is so. And I know that if it's one thing if you're going in expecting something and you get something different, audiences do not like that. See The Gray. Like that, like the audiences were not happy when they did not get taken with wolves, and I understand that impulse. So, but yeah, I've been. I will say that I did like this movie. I think it's fun. Where it stumbles is in the action of the action comedy.
Well, no, just the editing of this movie is awful.
Well,
I noticed editing is horrendously bad in this movie. I'm sorry.
So I noticed it earlier in the first 2 acts. I was like, some of this is kind of weird and choppy. It feels a little like disconjointed. I wonder if there's scenes missing.
Wait, you mean you didn't think the third act was sloppy when it was pretty much edited by a teenager on Mountain Dew?
I'm working up, Justin, motherfucker. Goddamn.
Okay.
Like, I said, I noticed it in Act 1 and 2 somewhat, because it feels like there are scenes missing from the movie. I was like, it feels kind of like we're jumping to some of these things pretty quickly. And then that third act rolls around, and I go, what the fuck happened here? Who cut half of this action sequence out of here? Like, there's points where it jumps actions, people die, and I have to go, wait, who's dead?
Who do they shoot? He shoot himself or he shoot someone else?
Holy shit. So that is where I feel the film stumbles, is near the end part where it abandons the comedy segment of it and becomes kind of a full Predator action movie. It's weird. When this movie tries to be a Predator film, that's when it falls on its face. At least in my opinion. I don't know who...
But I didn't think there was anything... I actually kind of like the tonal shift.
Okay.
Again, my main problem is that it was shitty editing.
Sure.
I think if there's a better editor or if just a longer cut of this movie, it would probably have been fine.
Okay, well, Justin, I know you're chomping at the bit. Go for it, my man. What do you think?
Okay. So, I am not queenie about Predator. Like, I've only seen one Predator movie, and even then, I take these on a movie-to-movie basis. You know, like even Last Jedi. I don't hate Last Jedi because of the obvious stuff it does for the continuity of the series. It's just, I didn't think it was a very good movie. But, that's kind of my issue here, where I feel like, you know what, I think I might have mentioned it to you, Nick. I might have mentioned it to a few other people, too. Shane Black does not make anything but Shane Black movies. And whenever you get him to make a non-Shane Black movie, like Iron Man 3 or Predator, it just feels like he's a
Iron
bad
Man 3
fit.
is totally a Shane Black movie. That's what's great
that's
about
the thing.
it.
It's not, because it's a Shane Black movie that slaps Iron Man on top of it. Where it's just like, okay, we got these funny bits. Oh yeah, shoot, we gotta have an action scene with Iron Man in it.
Again, I'm one of those people that loves Iron Man 3. I think it's the best Iron Man movie.
But you notice how they retconned every decision they made in Iron Man 3 in the later films, because nobody else liked those parts. But
well, that and they just wanted to keep the character around, and you can't like finish off a saga like Iron Man 3 does and just keep a character around.
Exactly. So it's like, let's just pretend Iron Man 3 didn't happen. But that's part of the problem with this Predator movie, is that I feel like Shane Black came into this movie and said, yeah, Predator is kind of fine, but, you know, sci-fi's stupid. And I feel like he went that approach with this because, like you said, part of the problem is the editing. Because Iron Man 3, I thought, had really bad editing. This movie, it feels like he's on some form of Ritalin, or like he's off his Ritalin throughout a lot of this movie, because he's just bouncing back and forth. But
I'm not going to blame Shane Black for the editing on this one. I don't know what happened for sure. I'm almost positive that the studio took this movie away from him and cut it down to an hour.
But see, they
40 minutes.
reshot this movie over and over again. They reshot new scenes. They took out new scenes, and they took out scenes.
I think they got Shane Black to make a Predator movie. They got a Shane Black movie, and were like, "What is this?" And the studio tried to make something out of it, and that's why we got the Frankenstein monster that we did.
And that's the problem with it, is that it's just so tonally all over the place. I just feel like it's not dramatic enough to be actiony. It's not funny enough to be a comedy. It's just kind of this.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there. I think the movie is very funny, the first 2 acts of it.
I thought it was only sporadically funny. Because, for one thing, personally, I'm not a big fan of comedies where the joke is, hey, he said a naughty word, isn't that hilarious? And that's pretty much Thomas Jane's character. His character has Tourette's, and the whole joke is, you know, sometimes he'll say something funny that's really gross. And that's it. He has no character development outside of his Tourette syndrome.
Whoa. him and Keegan Key have a whole dynamic with them with each other that has a whole other. Saying he doesn't have a character development is ridiculous. Now the Tourette's thing, I'll give you that. Of like that wasn't your cup of tea. I thought him saying "fuck" and then aardvark after that for no reason was hilarious. See, but he has a whole him. I won't spoil it here, but he has one of the most interesting background relationships with what's his name, Keegan-Michael Key. In which, like, their whole story is actually that's a whole movie unto itself, what ends up being their backstories.
And see, that's the problem, though, is I feel like if they had more time to flesh that out, if there had been fewer characters and fewer plot lines, because this movie's bouncing around plot lines so constantly. Like, we're going to Jacob Tremblay's little arc, we're going to Boyd Holbrook's arc, we're going back to the mother, we go back to Olivia Munn. It just bounces so back and forth around that at some point I started to get really fatigued in this movie. I'm just like, okay, movie, just, you know what? At least I can say this, Predator 1, you know, it has like 8 main characters, but it had a very narrow focus. Like, it had a very clear, obvious goal that was going towards, and it was always clear, Arnold is the main character. He's the one who's the one that we are following. And that's part of the problem with this movie, is that it's such a huge ensemble of people who are not very well developed. Like, in my personal opinion, I feel like the writing is sporadically interesting. Because actually, I do like some things in the writing. I think Boyd Holbrook, I think he's actually a very good lead character. I think he's a strong straight man in this film. And actually the character I thought had the most interesting development was Trevante Rhodes' character, Nebraska.
Yeah, he's the undercover like MVP here. Like, he really surprised me during this movie of how charismatic he is. Super
charismatic. I kind of wish that he was the main character of the story, because it feels like anytime we focus on him and Boyd Holbrook, that's where the chemistry really shows. These guys clearly are really good with each other, and they gave them some really good dramatic material. Everyone else is kind of just filler for the scenes, you know, eventually leading up to when predators attack. Because freaking the other two guys, that was Alfie Allen, right? The Irish sniper agent, which his only character trait, he does magic and he's Irish.
Yeah, he could have been removed from the whole entire movie. You wouldn't have noticed.
He also feels like because remember, like, his card was like a naked lady, but that was never established. We never got a close up of his card, and I was like, oh, they cut a scene. Like, throughout this whole movie, I was like, where is the scene that establishes this payoff? Because I would see a payoff scene, but I'm like, wait, they didn't establish this. And then I would see like an established scene, and then there was no payoff. It felt like someone chopped this movie to shit, especially near the end. Like, there's like, but Patience, we have not heard from you in a while.
I just want to shoot one last thing before we go to Patience. Apparently, it was actually the majority of the third act was reshot.
That's what I thought. I figured it as much.
Nah.
I would wondered if it had anything to do with the Olivia Munn doing the scene with that sex offender.
I do not know. It did say
that scene, I'm assuming that scene was in the first act, because there's no other context where that scene would have happened unless it was early on when she's establishing her character. Personally.
I don't remember. I don't know what the actual scene is. Like,
it's just a scene where they're jogging and he runs by and hits on and you know, flirts with her. That's it. That was all that scene was.
Glad it was worth getting the hot water over that, Shane Black. Dumbass.
We're not going to talk about that whole thing. So,
but anyway, speaking of this movie, Patience. Like, let's hear the skinny. What did you think?
Are you guys prepared for this?
You gonna let Justin talk about your boy Thomas Jane like that?
No, God no.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I love Thomas Jane. I think he's a great actor.
I 100% without a doubt agree wholeheartedly with Nick. I absolutely love this movie. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this movie is terrible. Yeah,
wait.
No, I agree with you guys. The editing is fucking awful. The plot is kind of dumb, and the CGI is some of the worst I've ever seen in my whole entire life. But
I won't say it's the worst, but it's wildly inconsistent throughout this movie.
Really bad. Yeah, I mean, obviously their practical effects were way better than their not practical effects. The computer generated effects were.
Yeah, because the Predator looks great when he's just in costume. When it's just a practical dude wearing a costume, it looks amazing.
But the Mecha Predator looks fucking terrible. Like, I mean,
the dogs.
He looks like the brute from Mass Effect.
The dogs are bad.
Yeah.
And then, like, you guys were saying, like, the end scene where there's, like, you're not really sure, like, who's dying and who's not, and all of that really terrible fake CGI blood. And they even have, like, really bad, like, gun burst shots coming out of the barrels. I mean, it's It's pretty bad. I was telling all my friends, I was like, hey, don't watch it in the theater because it'll be better if you watch it at home on your regular TV.
Better when you can throw popcorn at it?
Yeah,
well, actually,
I
was actually wondering, like, if the editing was responsible for the Tavante Rhodes is like why is his cigarette always at a different level of being smoked? But then I just realized, like, oh no, wait, he's just smoking that goddamn much.
Yeah,
like
he's just smoking. He's a chain smoker.
Some people have a 2-pack a day habit. He has like a 7-pack a movie habit. Like it is crazy how much he smokes during this.
I hated the plot as well. I thought it was pretty dumb, but I loved every single character except with the exception of Alfie Allen because he's totally not even in this movie at all.
No. Same with him and the Latino character.
Yeah.
What's the Latino character's name? Nettles?
Oh,
yeah. No. But see, I thought he got more airtime and more...
He got lines. It was just he wasn't particularly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his thing was...
that was my biggest problem with
his thing was he was religious or whatever. Like,
but that wasn't even a factor. Like, in the end, when they're trying to, like, well, I'm not going to say anything at the end, but just like, that never plays much into his character development at all. That's just a thing.
He's the only one that seemed shell-shocked throughout the movie. He always seemed like he just came out of combat no matter when they're talking to him. Like, he was really out of it.
I loved Boyd Holbrook, and I loved his relationship with Nebraska, like Quinn and Nebraska, where, I want to see just a movie with just them.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Sterling K. Brown, of course. He's fantastic. But as far as I'm concerned, the star of the show and what really stole the whole plot for me was Keegan-Michael Key and Thomas Jane's bromance.
Awesome.
They were amazing. And I agree with Nick. It's kind of like the A-Team a little bit. And for me, this movie... I went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to see a Predator movie by Shane Black. And that's exactly what I got. I got an action comedy that just happens to have a Predator or two in it. And I'm okay with that. I was actually talking to a friend of mine earlier who is a hardcore Predator fan, and he is like, devastated. He is like, this is the biggest garbage piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, that makes sense to me. Like, I totally understand your point of view.
Yeah, you're valid for that.
Yeah, you're not wrong because you wanted a Predator movie and this is not what you got. And
is that too hard to ask when you go to a movie called The Predator?
I contest there is no such thing as a Predator movie, but like...
Again, I agree with Nick because we have Predator, we have Predator 2. Is Predator 2 a Predator movie? No. Is Alien vs. Predator a Predator movie? No. Is Predators a Predator movie? No. So this isn't a Predator movie either.
Like, it's I feel like we're at a point where it's kind of we're at the point where it's impossible to please people. Like, everyone has their own idea of what a Predator movie should be, and I don't, like, a lot of people want the same thing as the first one again, and I don't think they realize, like, no, you want something different. Like, you probably didn't want this, but you want something different, and I think no one knows what that is yet.
Well, and that's the thing, it's like, it's not so much I need a Predator movie, I just want a competent action film, and I feel like the movie, because of how frenetic and schizophrenic it is throughout this whole film, it never has a consistent weight to it. Like, it feels like everything that happens, because, like you said, Patience, the plot, once you realize what's happening and why it's happening, which that stuff is barely explained as it is. Like, even with Sterling K. Brown doing his exposition dumps that is pretty much his character development throughout this film, you're just like, so wait a minute, the Predator wants to do this, and we did it by doing this, but then all of that could have been avoided if we didn't do this.
Well, let me ask you a question, Justin. Was there any point during this movie that you're just like, this is pretty fun? Like, you never were like, hey, I'm actually having a good time right now?
That's the thing. It's like, it's fun in a way that if you don't think very hard about it, it can be kind of mindlessly entertaining at points. Because there are some parts with the action sequences, which, for as gory as this movie is, everything happens so quickly that you don't really appreciate the gore or the kills that much. They're not, like...
they don't give you time to.
Well, I'm saying, I think like 500 people died in this movie, and we only get to see little bits of blood splatter and CG effects for most of those action sequences. Because they're just like callously chopping off limbs, throwing people across windows. One dude gets blown up in one of the weirdest, odd bits of dark comedy I've seen in a while.
They killed the shit out of him.
Which was so strange. But it's just like, yeah, this is fun. But the more I think about, it's like, well, they haven't earned a lot of this. They're not pacing these action scenes very well, because it's just, like I said, it feels like Shane Black channeling his inner teenager, just like, and now we're gonna do this, boo, pow, boo, and then we're gonna chop the people, and then the Predator's gonna do a thumbs up thing, like, see, isn't that funny? And you're just like,
yeah. Also, the Predator is funny in this.
But it was funny.
That's a weird. How does the Predator know what Earth comedy is like?
I mean, he's not
they
doing the comedy
of Earth multiple times. We established that.
That's true. They probably get our television by now.
And it's not exactly like he's doing it funny to amuse himself. It's more like just amusing to the audience the situations the Predator gets in.
I don't know. I think there would have been a better doing that was such a it was the obvious staging of the haha, get it? See, it's a little jokey bit right there. It's just like, all right.
You're making it sound like the Predator stood up there with it was a prop comic. And
he pretty much, he was just shy of doing that at one point in this movie.
Thinking about airline food.
Guys, the thing about these hot jungles, I mean, come on.
I was traveling the galaxy the other day, and my arms were getting really tired.
I can't get no respect.
Here's an interesting thing for Nick and Patience. So the kid, played by, Jacob Tremblay?
Jacob Tremblay.
Uh-huh.
We've seen him before.
I figured as much. He's the Before I Wake kid.
He is indeed the Before I Wake kid.
Oh, shut
I know him from Room.
And another Thomas Jane movie.
Yeah.
That we oh man, that's so funny.
And also The Room.
Yeah. I didn't see The Room.
Not The Room.
Or Room, sorry.
The kid was not in my movie, Nick.
Hi, Jacob.
Also, I do I mean, I feel like the portrayal of the autism is pretty realistic for the most part, of his weird tics and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm still pretty iffy on the autism gives you the ability to read alien language. But as far as the acting goes, I think this kid is really good.
No, he did a good job.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, is that I don't think any actor in this movie was bad. All the actors played their parts to the best they could, in my personal opinion.
Trevante Rose is, I don't want to say this because I did like the movie, but he's almost too good to be in this movie.
I feel most everyone in this movie is too good to be in this movie.
His character's wow, you are I really can't say this enough, guys. If you want to just go watch this for his performance alone, it is really captivating. He is really fun to watch. I feel like that with a lot of the crew here that they have.
I found Olivia Munn's character to be rather odd at times.
Bland.
I feel like there's scenes of her missing too.
Yeah, well, because her motivation for this movie was just that's my space monster. Really? You're going to go after this thing that you saw murdered a whole room of people because that's your space monster.
Well, apparently they established that she's competent at shooting military-grade weaponry just cause now the plot requires her to be.
Well, she does fall over a couple times, and it's not like she's hitting bullseye targets. So
right, but that makes it even weirder that she's so gung ho about it that she's charge. Yeah. Shouldn't she no?
I don't know. I'm so sick of the women falling over and have to be saved by everyone.
Oh,
I thought
no.
That's
they
not
just
the
need
problem.
a scene to establish she can do that.
They need to establish shots for characters.
I think she handled the gun like a kind of normal person would. I hate it when people treat guns like they're living things.
My problem isn't the fact that she held a gun. My problem is the fact that she ran after a predator. It was no, my space animal. Yeah. I want it.
And then some of the stuff she does at the end, too. Where you're just okay.
I honestly feel that the same way about Olivia Munn that I feel about Alfie Allen and the way that I feel about Jake Busey. They're interchangeable. Anybody could have played those characters. They're so bland, and they have no big impact on the overall plot, or not that there is a big plot anyway, but they're just so bland and unmemorable. I think that they could have had a robot play them and everyone would have been that was a pretty good performance.
If there's anything I gotta agree with Justin on, is that there's too much movie in this movie. And Jake Busey, I was holy shit, he's the kid from Predator 2, holy shit. And he exits the movie and never comes back. So you figure, like, yeah, there's probably... Like, I swear to God, guys, there's a whole nother, like, half hour to 45 minutes of this movie missing. Like, it just feels like that.
Like, can we re-review the director's cut when it comes out?
Sure, Patience, sure. Well, that's something I will about Olivia Munn's character is, like, you're just kind of in this because, but, like, normally when they shove characters like, and it's like, oh, she's the love interest, but she's not.
Yeah, I appreciated
I'm glad that she's not a love interest in
I
didn't mind that, but she also they didn't give her a character, though.
No, so, well, she's there to explain stuff, the science stuff.
Yeah.
And she's there to be...
Sterling K. Brown has that job, too.
Right.
He does have that job as well.
She's there to be the enthusiastic, wants to learn at all costs character. I'm trying to think of, what's his name from Independence Day? Data.
Oh, yeah. Brent Spiner?
Yeah. He's there to be like, holy shit, this is the most amazing thing I'll ever be a part of, and it's totally worth risking my life to do this. Yeah. And it takes a lot to get that across a performance alone without an establishing backstory. And again, I feel like she had a backstory that we didn't see.
Right.
And I feel like the same way for... Like, you can't tell me that, like, I don't understand why, like, it must have just been too much to get rid of Theon Greyjoy out of this movie, because he's the most expendable out of all of them. Like, I feel he adds nothing. And he like, it must have been just too much trouble to excise him completely from the movie. So they have them in the beginning and the end.
Which is weird, because I can't think of anything significant he did. He didn't even take down any enemies. He barely fired his gun throughout a lot of these scenes. He was
mentioned as the explosives guy, right?
Well, does he ever use an explosive in this movie?
He was mentioned that he blew shit up.
Yeah, and he helps set up the trip mine. And then what makes me interested about this is that, look, there's so many things that could have gone wrong, and it's so choppy, but I feel like there's something here that we are not seeing that, like, maybe Patience says when a director's cut comes out, like, it'll make more sense to me, like, oh, this is what happened. Because, yeah, that third act really brings it down for me as far as, like, there's a really cool kill where the Predator, like, makes a clothesline and takes a bunch of people's heads off. But I don't realize that's what happened until, like, a second after it happens. It takes my brain a while to catch up because the editing is way too fast on it. And by that point...
Oh, yeah, it's just zigzagging, bouncing back and forth between shots like that. You know?
And by the I'm like, you don't feel the impact of it. So, like,
no.
I'm like, oh, that was a cool kill that I probably would have enjoyed more if they would have just let the camera linger on it a little bit more. And it's not like they're trying to edit around for a PG-13 rating.
No, they've got the rating.
So I'm not sure what happened here, other than they should probably have just get a different editor, or maybe the studio should have let Shane Black have his other cut of his movie. Like, even if it ran 2 hours.
You say Shane Black's not responsible for that stuff, but he's responsible for coordinating those sequences. He wrote the script for those sequences too. So
sure, but I think the scripts, they're the how they're scripted out is fine. I think, like I said, the kills, when you think about them, that's a cool kill. That's a great kill, but it's not, like, edited right. Like, the shot doesn't last long enough on it. It's not that the shot isn't good. It doesn't last long enough. And
yeah, there was even one kill that happened later on that the kill was kind of out of focus, even though it was a major character who died in that sequence, where I'm like,
yes,
I'm not sure what just happened in that scene.
Or who even died.
And look, it's not like I'm trying to avoid Shane Black's blame in this. Maybe he did have a more editing process in the movie than he had, but it does not feel like that. It feels like someone cut a movie that, like, that. Most times, if a filmmaker edits his own movie, they leave way too much in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I have a hard time believing Shane Black cut this much out of his own film. This feels like a studio cut, and that's just that's my gut feeling, but that's all I can really go off of.
No, and I can agree with that. I can agree with that a bit. So,
but yeah, should we move on to the spoiler section, or do we want to mention anything else that's non-spoilery still? Everyone else done?
Spoilers!
Spoilers!
You know what? I have one thing I want to say that I feel is kind of... This movie brings up a couple tropes that I really am sick of in certain action films. Like, for one thing, I get that guns are the only weapons they have available at them, but if you establish that thing is completely bulletproof in, like, most areas of its bodies, why do you keep shooting at it?
Yeah, you know? Get the soft part.
Yeah, but they keep shooting at the areas where the bullets ricochet off it. So they already established these things are resistant to bullets, and then they just go, well, just keep shooting at it until it falls over. Something will happen. I'm just like...
Yeah, like anytime I always think that for like what do you call it? Luke Cage. Like after a certain point in season 2, like why are they shooting him? Like why even bother?
Listen, they're trying to slow it down and buy him time so that they can come up with another plan that will actually kill it. Duh.
No, sure, but in the later scenes, yes. But like for the first 2/3 of this movie, they established early on those things are resistant to bullets, and yet in like what the big giant hospital sequence or the scientist place kind of thing, and then they keep shooting at it in every other scene. The same group of people keep shooting at it, and they're just like, well, at some point the bullets will start to affect it. But then, and then also there's just a few of those tough guy lines that I'm kind of sick of in these movies where, like, what's her name? The wife character? Who was the actress that played the wife?
Yvonne Strahovski.
Oh, that was Yvonne Strahovski?
Yep.
She's Miranda from Mass Effect 2. So,
wow, I did not even recognize her.
Or most people will know her as Sarah from Chuck.
Yeah, no, she's great. But that's the thing. It's like, they do that line. There's 2 action lines I'm just sick of these days. The welcome to blank, when you say something like, welcome to blank, mother effer kind of thing. And then the you effed with the wrong family. And sure enough, she does that line in this film where I'm just like,
Well, I like that one too is like there's no consequences for her act. Like we never see her again. Like
yeah, no, she just drops out of the film.
Oh, it's because they put her in a black site and she's never coming back.
Well, like many of the sub characters, they drop out into not important enough to really establish limbo. Like they go into some sort of purgatory with all the other drop subplots.
Which is sad because Yvonne Strahovski is a great actress, and I thought she was actually. Any scenes with her, I thought she was actually pretty good in it. Which the movie sometimes undercuts her for no good reason.
She's great, and I think she's getting a lot more play now that she's been The Handmaid's Tale, which is good.
She might win the Emmy this weekend, so...
Yeah, and I think that'll up her star level, and I always thought that she was really, really good, so hopefully she gets more project. Like, that's probably what led to this project, and hopefully it leads to bigger, more significant parts as well. So, yeah, I think we can just go into ratings and then to spoilers.
Okay.
Just go into ratings quick. I like it. Not really my favorite Predator film. I still like, oddly enough, it might actually be Predators, believe it or not. Even though I admit that there's this classic level of the first Predator movie that we will just not get back. Like if we're going to try and we can't try and capture the magic of the first one. That's just it's kind of a lightning in a bottle. So I like this one and what it tries to do. And I really was digging it, except for it does some things right at the end of the second act where I'm like, really? Damn. Including the action. I'm not a big fan of the CGI Super Predator, of it being like, it's bigger. Yay. Also, I understand why we need to do a full CG monster when the practical effect one was the main draw from the other movies of how good it looks. So
yeah.
I don't like that very much. Some of the stuff it reveals later in the story is like, even if you're suspending your disbelief, you kind of go, wait a minute. Like, that directly conflicts with some of the stuff that the Predator does in the earlier part of this movie. But overall, I think it's very fun, and I can't say enough that the human acting in here really sold it for me, and I love the crew here. I love Group 2. Most of them, I should say, the ones that get screen time.
Yeah, get lines.
And I really think that like they really save it for me. Thomas Jane, Keegan-Michael Key, and Trevante Rhodes in particular really bring their A game to this movie and bring it up a level. To a point where I got to give this one a 3.5 ripped spinal cords out of 5, guys. It's a real fun time, and I really don't know who to recommend it to because it kind of depends on your love of the Predator. It's very dependent on your taste of film, I guess. So that's just my personal rating. Justin, how about you?
Well, let's see. I didn't want to go in disliking this movie. I saw the reviews and how they've been largely negative for this film. Like, it's sitting at like 30-something%, 40, almost 40 right now. Mm-hmm. But it's like, okay, maybe it's over-exaggerated. I saw some of those people who were like, okay, this guy usually don't trust his reviews anyways. It's just the problem that at some point it came clear, like we've been kind of saying, it's like, Shane Black really didn't care about this movie. Like, he only cared enough to saying, all right, so I got a lot of money, I got some really big name actors, it's Predator, and then I'll just make whatever I want to make with this. So it's just, I don't know. Like, and again, I don't want to say that just saying that Shane Black doesn't make good movies. I love Lethal Weapon. I think that's a really great movie. I still have The Nice Guys I need to watch. I think he can make good movies that are his type of black comedy action films, you know? And I just feel like anytime you give him a movie that's outside of his wheelhouse, he doesn't know how to adapt to other people's styles very well. Because even the first Predator, yeah, sure. You know, it's not the deepest movie. It's not better than Alien or Aliens, you know, for like sci-fi actioners kind of thing. But like I said, John McTiernan knows how to direct movies that are narrow and to the point focused on their objectives. You know, Die Hard, you have the one man against all these people. Predator, you have the one man who's taking on the one predator, and it's just, you know, his team being whittled down until the final confrontation. Shane Black just feels like he just has so little focus in this movie, so little attention that it's kind of distracting, and at some point I started to get really fatigued because it just became nonstop violent action or nonstop goofy comedy, and there was really never a break from either of those two. And it's just, and that's why I treasure those scenes with like Boyd Holbrook and Trevante Rhodes. Anytime they were talking to each other without all the other goofballs around them, it was like, okay, there's some real drama here. There's some real weight to these stories. And I don't know. I just felt at some point, I'm like, this is just not a very well-made movie. It's got decent production values. So it's like I said, the alien costumes look great. The actors are really well done. You know, they're really good actors kind of thing. Some of the gore is good. We just don't spend enough time to remember any kills. Like, when you think the first Predator, when you think of all the deaths that happened in that movie, every single one of them had a moment to shine. Like, you know, Jesse Ventura's death, or Carl Weathers' death, or any of those people. You remember those scenes because they're so, you know, they took their time to earn the kills. This one is just gratuitous violence to the point where you just could not care anymore. It's like, all right, one sliced limb is just like the other in this movie. I don't know. So, I mean, overall, I wasn't disliking, hating it kind of thing, although I'm going to say this, and we'll save it for the spoilers a little bit, but that final scene in the very end of the movie, I freaking hated that. I was just like, because, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, because I got to say something. You know, no, I'm going to save it for the spoiler. I don't want to ruin it. But I'm just saying, there's a certain trend in sci-fi movies that they're setting up these endings, and it's very similar to a couple other sci-fi films that also were not very good. So, I'm going to give... Sorry?
No, I was just going to say that one feels like it's a franchise, so give it a Marvel stinger or whatever.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to say exactly what, but it's very much this ending similar to at least two other action sci-fi films I can think of. But I'm going to give this 5 out of 10 douchebag frat houses.
All right. Well, Travis, what do you feel about it, buddy?
I think I like this movie kind of as sort of a trashy B sci-fi action film. My biggest problem with it is two major things. Is, again, the editing is just god awful. This movie needs another touch up. I need 20% less characters than 30% more movie, I guess. Because it's just kind of a hot mess right now. Also, it's another one of those instances that, like, the trailers were not good for the movie. They were actively selling a different movie for the first two trailers, and only the third trailer even showed me what kind of movie I was expecting. So I'm really glad I saw that third trailer, or I'd probably be very pissed at this movie. But overall, the human characters were the most interesting part, which I think is better than some other movies like this, like, say, Transformers, that are like, hey, you care about these military guys, right? No, I don't. They can rot in a fire and die. But they at least gave these guys personalities, and like, oh, hey, I kind of like these guys. They're fun to hang out with, while they're being chased by this movie monster.
Yep.
But still, this movie has quite a few flaws, but overall I find it enjoyable, so I'll give it 6 decapitated thumbs ups out of 10.
All right, Patience, what do you think here?
Justin had me at gratuitous violence. I really...
Patience, with me, you have seen better violence in other movies.
I am in this position where I agree with pretty much everybody. If you hate this movie, I completely understand why you hate this movie. But I liked this movie. I really did. I agree wholeheartedly. The editing is sucky. The plot is terrible. The CGI, again, it's really, really bad. someone, I think Chris Cox mentioned, he's like, someone should have just been like, hey, Shane, maybe you should hire somebody to do the CGI for you because you don't know what the hell you're doing. And it's weird that I'm saying this because it's like, okay, so that's 3 strikes, right? But this movie, actually, I thought it was a really fun movie. The characters are entertaining and intriguing. At least most of them are. Yeah. I loved the dialogue. At first, I was a little reticent. I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to like this movie. But the more it progressed, the more I fell in love with Group 2. And the more I was just like, I just want to see like a movie with just them, not necessarily with the Predator in it, but just them as a group, like, you know, like going into the jungle and fighting like bad guys. I think that would be an amazing movie. And it has that Shane Black, you know, that Fred Decker, like, magic, like, banter that you gotta love. So I'm gonna give it the same review I gave it for One of Us, which is 7.5 hunks of metal stuck up my ass out of 10.
Which is a great scene, too. I was thinking of, like, man, when is he gonna go to the bathroom? But yes, with that, we're going to go into the spoiler section. So if you would like to not see the movie before seeing the spoiler section, totally understand that. Just make sure you check out some of our previous episodes of the UGO podcast on iTunes and subscribe to us while you're there. Give us a 5-star review. And check out these guys here at their stuff as well. Justin, where can the people find you?
Well, you can find me on oneofus.net. I write the notes for The Breakfast Pub, and I occasionally host it. I hosted this week's with Nick and Travis, which thank you guys very much. That was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And then I'm also hosting next week, so that'll be fun.
Great.
You also can find me on the Screener Squad reviews. We review all the movies that are not good enough to get to streaming or, to main theatrical release, but they're still worth talking about, some of them. Then some of them are Jurassic Dead. So...
Now even
and
you're
then
doing it.
You can also find me on Eye on the Prize, our Oscar podcast. So...
I like how even Justin now is bringing up Jurassic Dead. Like, it's a trauma story for him, and he didn't even fucking watch it.
To be fair, I watched Jurassic Games, so I can only imagine if that one is even worse than that one, I can imagine as traumatic as you said it was.
Oh, you haven't even seen anything, my friend. It was a Jurassic game. It was just a Jurassic game to you. It was a game of death for me. Patience, where can the people find you?
Well, you can find me on oneofus.net. Same as Justin, I co-host Deliberations of Doom. The best horror movie podcast, but I might be biased. I also moonlight on Highly Suspect Reviews and the occasional Yu-Gi-Oh! Netflix and Kill episode, so check me out.
Yes.
With Thomas Jane.
That's
yeah, we have a reoccurring theme.
The Jane Lane, if you will. But yes, with that out of the way, go check out their stuff if you would like, just more geeky content. Otherwise, we're going to head to the spoiler section right after this.
Killing all is the mission that's assigned to me. A butcher from another galaxy, I'll guarantee that I won't leave till you all are dead. So I'm hunting in the darkness with my infrared. Yeah, stripping up the skin from the newly departed. After hunting all the victims with my laser target. Won't stop till I've finished up the human harvest. So the cities go quiet and the rivers run scarlet. We visited before in the recent past. Now we're back to kill again and even more advanced. Evolution, the solution, technologically enhanced. Using foreign DNA so any enemy surpassed. Every colony erased without a chance to recover. After killing off a species, move along to another. Psychopathic in the mind, I don't care if you suffer. Go ahead and call me names like I'm an ugly mother.
And welcome to the spoiler section for The Predator. So, there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about here before we wrapped up this episode. And one, I wanted to have a point of contention where Justin said that none of the deaths in here were very memorable, which I will agree that maybe they're not as memorable as the Predator film, but there are two in particular that are very memorable.
None of everything except till the very end is not memorable. Like when you think of all the other faceless bad guys who get killed, nothing like that was impactful.
You're not supposed to feel anything for them. They're red shirts. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, but they're so gratuitously violent. That's why I'm like, if they're going to be this gory and like slicing limbs off, smashing heads in, all this kind of stuff, you feel like you should care, a little bit. Like, ooh, that's really gross.
You obviously don't watch a lot of horror films, Justin.
I do, and I can tell a good horror kill when I see one.
The less we know the person, the more gore we should see of them. Correct,
absolutely.
Patience?
Yep,
yes,
absolutely.
that's the equation. Like, the less I care about them, the bigger the kill has to be in order to satisfy my inner sociopath.
I mean, I like Carl Weathers in Predator, and his death was very memorable, and he gets his arm cut off in that one. So.
Yeah, but that was 30 years ago. Movies have changed, buddy. Like, movies have changed.
And also, you like him, and he's Carl Weathers, and you think like, oh, he'll get this. Oh God, his arm is off. Oh no! How is he going to fight Rocky now?
And then Bill Duke getting his brains blown out in that one scene was really memorable too. So
I love that scene because you could tell like, the fuck is this? He's trying to figure it out, and by the time he does, he gets his head fucking blown off.
I almost feel like he knew what was coming, just like, might as well get it over with.
But I agree with Nick. I actually think that there's two pretty great death scenes in this. First of all, I know which one you're going to talk about, Nick, so you go ahead. And it's my favorite. It was glorious in every single way.
Well, there's a certain part, like, we keep dunking on the finale of this, like the third act of here, where the action is pretty poorly...
A little choppy.
It's real choppy. But there are certain elements that I really dig. One being the ultimate fate of Thomas Jane and Keegan-Michael Key's characters.
Fuck yes!
So... this is amazing, because, well, a little backstory here. Keegan-Michael Key and Thomas Jane's characters, they explained earlier in the movie what they, like, Thomas Jane has Tourette's, and he has the version of Tourette's where you can't control, like, what you say, like, you swear, and you say inappropriate shit, like fucking aardvark, or whatever the fuck he says. Which, I liked that his Tourette's was toned down, in my opinion. Like, it was... like, it seemed to happen when he was a very stressful situation, and it was, like, the worst time it could have happened.
I almost thought he was going to be more like a What About Bob, where, Bill Murray's just like, just shouted a bunch.
Yeah. And also, he was a lone survivor of a truck explosive or whatever. And Keegan-Michael Key's character... is on the bus because he was involved in a friendly fire scenario in which he got turned around in combat and fired on a friendly unit, and now he makes jokes to compensate, I guess, or doesn't really take anything seriously. And near the middle of the film, we figure out that. Like he's like, hey, what's the deal with those guys? Like, oh, well, that friendly unit that he fired on? Like, so did he kill everybody? No, there was one survivor. Who was it? It was that guy. It was Thomas Jane. And that, like, they go into like, oh yeah, well, they spent time, in the same mental health facility, like outside, waiting in the chairs and stuff, and just became friends. And I'm like, that's
fucked up.
That's a great story. That is a whole movie unto itself. I love that. That is like that, and it really sells me on why these two are like thick as thieves. And so I love it especially when they volunteer to lure the predator in, and I love like Keegan-Michael Key's like, can I talk to you for a second? What the fuck, man? Like, are you you fucking crazy?
My favorite part is at one point when it's like they're just about to start like for real fighting like the major predator, the mega predator, and Thomas Jane just totally like snaps out of it, and like everyone's like, where have you been? He's like, oh, I never left, and he's just like, yep, he's been here the whole time. It's cool. Like, we knew. Like he was never actually insane.
Well, they all have their own kind of PTSD or issues that they're working through. And like everyone has like a turn of where they kind of like are out of it or want to give up or like this isn't their fight sort of thing. And so that like kind of creates contention between the group sometimes too of like, like, hey, we got to go do this thing. Like, no, I can't. I literally can't. Like, this thing is like triggering for me, and I can't go do this. And it leads to one of the greatest fucking duo death scenes I've ever seen, which Thomas Jane, like a fucking insane badass, jumps at this on-fire predator. This predator is, like, on fire. Like, he's been lit on fire by some sort of napalm blast. I don't know what it was. But he jumps on top of him with his fucking knife and just starts to go to town on him.
He's taking this thing out.
Yeah, and it's like, fuck you, and I think he's screaming during, I don't know what the hell he's screaming. And Keegan-Michael Key is trying to help him, and he gets flung off into this fucking tree and skewered, and I thought he was instantly dead, but apparently no, he's still alive. And then before the predator gets knocked off this cliff, he guts Keegan-Michael Key, and like you see intestines and shit. It's all fucked up.
It's pretty gross.
He's fucked, and they have this look at each other, like these two final friends, and they don't even say anything. They just nod, and they both take their handguns out and they shoot each other, like not even a countdown.
It's a really well framed shot too.
It was beautiful.
It pulls back out, and I'm like, that was fucking awesome.
And they proceed to have frantic cutting.
I will agree that I thought that in the context of that scene, that's a pretty good scene. It's almost like you said, I almost wish there was more movie of them. Yeah. You know, like to develop to that point. If they had fleshed that out a little bit more, that would have been a really well done arc. In that sense.
I think it was a well done arc.
They did it enough for me that it definitely counted. Like, it was, for me, it was like, yeah, that was pretty good. Like, maybe I could have used more, but it was, they crossed the like, if we're playing horseshoes or hand grenades, they got it in there. They got it close enough to where it counted. Who did not get close enough was Alfie Allen, because he just disappears from that fight. And I'm starting to think that, like, I really starting to think my theory of him being involved in that final fight might be, like...
It seems legit, I mean...
Well, they set up that...
Yeah, because it's unclear. It's one of those, like, Avatar things, like, did he die? It was kind of unclear.
Well, they set up the trip mines, and they let the Predator on fire, which you'd think would be his thing.
Right.
But he's supposed to be dead at this point, right? And they go out of their way to not show who set up the trip mines. Did you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
They're just set up. I'm almost positive he's in that he was in a cut of that final battle.
Maybe.
I really think that's
like most anything in this movie, they just pull stuff out their butt. So it's like, strip mines? Sure, why not? Grenades? Sure, we got them. Motorcycles? Hey, we found some in the corner here. Why not?
Well, they were by that. They did scrap a bunch of stuff from the military guys. Which, another thing I love in movies is where two people that are in contention have to team up and fight a bigger threat. I love that. And of course, Trevante Brown is
Rhodes.
Or Trevante Rhodes. I'm thinking of I'm combining two actors together. So Trevante Rhodes also is revealed to have shot his XO. What is revealed later is that XO was him, and that he missed. So he's got like this,
and then he walked to the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's got like this death wish thing, and I'm like, this is fucking good character stuff.
It is.
This is great.
Yeah,
I love this. And he goes out by like insanely running into an engine, which is fucking amazing. Like,
it was like the ultimate sacrifice. It was so cool.
Yeah, that was easily the best death in this movie. I thought he had the most noble sacrifice. It's like, yeah, that stood out.
Meanwhile, Nettles and Alfie Allen just get fucked.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would actually...
Seriously, Nettles is like, dude, jump or duck, one or the other.
I actually would like to give a little honorable mention to Nettles, played by Augusto Aguilera. I actually kind of liked his death. I know that it is stupid. Like, I mean, he didn't really think in the heat of the moment. But
they always showed him as being the one that was shook up the most, that the other people had to drag him and do stuff.
Yeah, because he has a traumatic brain injury. Yeah,
he seemed the most out of it. So I feel like that's what fucked him in the end, really. But again, that's not really a satisfying character arc for him. You know what I mean?
I was actually okay with his character. I thought he kind of reminded me of another Hispanic actor. Gosh, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was in the movie Domino with Keira Knightley. And he was also in Point Break, unfortunately, the remake. But
what's his name? Edgar Ramirez?
Edgar Ramirez, yeah. That's exactly who I'm talking about. And he kind of reminded me of him a little bit. But his death, I thought, was pretty fucking hilarious. And I kind of liked the idea of it. It was a little bit gory, and it was just like, I actually thought it was pretty funny, but I guess that's not what everybody wants to hear.
Well, I mean, that part's funny, but then there's the award for least satisfying death goes to Sterling K. Brown by far in this movie.
What the fuck happened?
Yeah.
What happened there? Like,
I couldn't tell what happened in that scene.
By far one of the worst editing pieces in this movie.
Yeah.
This is where I got to agree with Justin 100% here, is that this was a fuck up of a death here, because Trevante Brown. Am I mixing up his name again?
Rhodes.
Trevante Rhodes.
Trevante Rhodes. Well, Trevante Rhodes gets like a great death scene. He gets an amazing like finish off with his death. You're thinking
finish him.
You're thinking Sterling K. Brown. He's the asshole that's been antagonizing him the whole.
He's been
movie.
dodging the main characters the whole way. Mm-hmm. He's basically our third villain, I guess. I don't know.
He's here to chew gum and kick ass, and he never runs out of gum for whatever reason.
Well, he does run out of ass.
Nicotine gum.
Is it nicotine gum?
Yeah, it was nicotine gum the whole time.
Wow,
it could have been Tic Tacs. It didn't really matter.
Why was that? They zoomed in on it, so I was like, "Why is that important?" And again,
I don't know. Who knows?
Again,
they zoomed in on a lot of stuff. There was a Pikachu that was a center shot in one point in this movie.
I'm pretty sure again that he had a different death scene that they had to reshoot for whatever reason. Because there's a lot of stuff that's set up with him that
was like someone else who shot themselves.
Well, yeah, because he has this cool shoulder cannon, and what Olivia Munn says, like, "Hey," and he looks over, and the shoulder cannon looks his way and blows his own head off.
Yeah,
at least, and it happens so fast, it's hard to tell. Like, I thought he might have shot Olivia Munn.
I couldn't tell who got shot for what.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa, he's like our big bad guy. Like, shouldn't the Predator especially, like, rip his spine out? Or something?
Yeah, he's our asshole. He deserves his death.
Or if we're going to give him a fun...
It's again that...
or if we're going to give him a funny death, if we're going to give him a funny death, can I see it? So I can appreciate the comedy of this guy fucking himself up? Like...
Well, they mentioned earlier that... the kid mentions, like, when the helmet or the gauntlets feel like they're in danger, that's when they shoot, that's when they react. Mm-hmm. And so basically the joke was that the helmet felt like it was in danger from him. And so it killed him.
But that was never.
But it was the
so
shoulder.
Unsatisfying.
Yeah, it was the shoulder cannon that was on him.
Yeah, but that was the whole point, though. Was like the suit kills whatever it feels like it's in danger from, and then the suit felt like it was in danger from Sterling K. Brown.
I don't think that's what happened. I think Olivia Munn diverted his attention, and then the shoulder cannon shoots at whatever you're looking at, and it looked like it was on his shoulder, so it just shot him in the head on accident.
No, either way, it's dumb.
I don't know. Either way, I mean, yeah.
Also, we should talk about the Predator fight, because in the middle of this movie, the bigger Predator hunts down our little Predator and just kicks the shit out of it and rips its fucking head off. Which, don't get me wrong, is
pretty much beating up his little brother.
It's cool and shocking until you realize, oh no, that means we spend the rest of this movie with this CGI monstrosity.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't like that. I like the practical Predator. I feel like the giant Predator is actually, it shows him like trying to crawl in rooms, and it seems like it would actually be kind of a hindrance to be that big. Like,
yeah,
like it helps in Predator fights, but I don't think humans, I don't think it really even matters how big you are. Like, I guess being invulnerable to bullets helps.
Yeah, true.
Since you're a bigger fucking target.
I actually didn't have that much of a problem with that scene. However, I mean, it's stupid, but I would really like to talk about Olivia Munn's ability to teleport over hundreds of miles within a few seconds. Because that, to me, just was like, really? So she's on this cliff, and then they take off in this spaceship, and they keep flying and flying and flying and flying, but then all of a sudden she's just magically appears out of nowhere. So
they had to have the whole feminist, like, we need the girl to help save the day kind of thing. But that's the problem. It's like, you can do that, but you can't just appear out of nowhere.
Right.
Well, why not just have the ship float? Like, why can't it just go farther up in the air as it's ascending? Why does it have to travel at all?
Or just have her on the ship with them. She could have just jumped as well.
I guess she could have just jumped. Like,
Chris Cox thought it would be funny if we just imagine her riding the predator dog to... just like riding the horse, riding the predator dog, because that totally made sense.
The predator dogs were really unsatisfying in this movie. Like, there's a really cool fight. I actually thought one of the better fights in the movie when they fight the predator dogs at first. Mm-hmm. And then that's over really quickly, and then the rest of the movie, it's just a dog. Just a big dog that barfs grenades up. I'm just like,
they shoot it in the head, so it's like they lobotomize it, and it makes them their friend or whatever. Which is like, wait a minute, what?
That makes no sense whatsoever.
And don't get me wrong, it's kind of funny. Like I'd be lying if I didn't get a chuckle out of it. Love like him fetching a grenade so that Olivia Munn can get out of a situation.
Yeah, but he also after a while became a Deus Ex Machina, where it's like, oh, we need something to happen right now. Here comes the dog. I'm like,
right.
Okay, so you're just being kind of
lazy. And he
lazy.
survives just long enough to get killed by the bigger predator, so that we don't have the continuity of trying to keep a predator dog around.
Yeah,
no, but he didn't die. You see him at the end. He's in the ending scenes.
Is he? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Remember in the very end when they were collecting all the trinkets from the various characters, the predator dog's in the background with them.
Oh, okay. I thought he died for whatever reason. You know what? That's cool. I like that. That means there's like a predator dog kicking around. That's funny to me.
But again, that's the problem, that the editing is so sloppy at certain points. You're not clear what happens. Like, they spend a whole big chunk of the movie where focusing on a real dog, and there's shots where it shows the dog running and it shows him doing this stuff, and then you never see that again. Any other important point in the movie.
Right,
the dog never shows up again.
The dog, they make a big deal of showing the dog getting into the RV with them, or running towards the RV with them.
just running towards it.
But not quite getting in, so it's like, wait a minute, what? Like,
so that was pointless.
That was dumb. I agree.
So, yeah, I'm like, I don't understand. If you're going to cut the movie for time, why not cut some of this other stuff? Like, cut the dog stuff completely so it makes more sense. Or cut, like, Sterling K. Brown's showing his nicotine gum thing. Of, like, why even show that if it's not going to pay off in any way? Or,
it has no character development for him at all, so...
Or, cut Alfie Allen completely if you can, but apparently that would be much harder because he feels like he was in a much more significant part of this movie. Like...
Yeah. Also, this movie, I forgot to mention this earlier on with my things that bug me about action movies. So if you're not a main character on the poster, the Predator will dice you up into pieces. He'll go like full on like Blender on you. If you're a main character though, he'll just kind of lightly tap you out of the way if you're in his path. Just like, okay, so we've established this dude can murder people easily, but if you're Boyd Holbrook, he'll just knock you out of the side for a second.
Well, they do that, a lot of that in the ending fight, which is usually where the Predator does knock people around, a la Schwarzenegger in the end of the last one. But you'd figure as soon as Olivia Munn shows up and starts shooting him in the head, you'd go, okay, yeah, I guess I'm just going to get my stab on from now on, because this is ridiculous. Yeah. Like, this was supposed to be me and you mano a mano, but if we're going to do two people and a dog versus me, then I think I'll whip the blades out.
Yeah, and I also found that I didn't really think the Mega Predator's death was all that great. I'm just like, all right, they just shot it, they blew it up a whole bunch, and then Boyd Holbrook does a really dumb punchline and shoots it in the head.
I kind of like it. Them using the hand itself to shoot it. Like, I thought that was cute.
That part was cool, but the actual like final death part itself, I thought was kind of lame.
Because you figured the only thing that could penetrate it is an own Predator weapon. It's kind of like a riff off of the beginning scene of where he has the gauntlet and it hits the Predator basically on accident or on instinct.
Because I thought Shane Black saw The Incredibles, and he's like, oh, I can do that in my movie too.
See? The only thing that's hard enough to penetrate is itself. Yeah, you didn't know that Syndrome was just hanging out in the background. God damn it, Super Predator is a dud. All right, I'll have to...
So the Mega Predator was his attempt to create another superhero killer.
Yeah. All right, I'm not ready to go up against Mr. Incredible yet, but one day I'll look into robots. So, yeah, Yvonne Strahovski doesn't come back, although the kid becomes some sort of a military scientist.
Yeah.
Which you'd figure...
my God.
Okay, which
that ending.
That was so dumb.
So we gotta talk about this ending scene, because there's like...
This ending freaking sucks!
What
oh my God,
movie
it's so
is this
bad.
Scene from? This movie...
This ending is very clearly the ending of Independence Day Resurgence and Pacific Rim Rising.
Yes.
This is that ending where it's like, now we're going to take the fight back to them. Yep. We got their weapons.
They've all but said that line.
It seems like every franchise movie has to have this type of sequel bag ending in it. And, that's, this feels... it's as goofy as the rest of this movie is. This feels really out of tone with the rest of the movie.
No, even the guy that's happening to is like, what the fuck is going on? I'm not part of this movie.
So they bring out this predator killer, which is this cyborg thing. Imagine a RoboCop if it was a predator,
right?
No,
it's a Predator Sentai suit.
A RoboCop movie, so
it's literally a Predator Sentai suit. What the fuck?
Yeah, it should really go fight Rita Repulsa at one point.
It should.
Also, it doesn't really make sense with the Predator's motivation, because apparently the first Predator came down to help us out against the other predators, because with, I guess, global warming, how it's making the Earth hotter, this is a prime location for the predators to hang out in because they like heat.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was really dumb, that explanation. And also the fact that the Predator wants to help us, but he's totally fine murdering 60 people before we get that reveal.
Yes.
Oh no, I think he went to the Reaper School of Benevolence from Mass Effect, just we're gonna save all mankind by murdering them and liquefying them.
So I get when he's waking up in the lab, he's strapped down and he wants to get out of there. And
he has to get his package.
And predators are pretty violent even by nature. I'm sure even the good ones are pretty violent. Where I seem to have a issue is when he first makes contact with the army guys that are just checking out his ship, did he really need to murder the shit out of those guys? When he's...
It was just an excuse for them to do the scene where they skin the guy's body and hang him from the tree. Again.
Because wouldn't that be a point where, hey, I'm bringing this thing to give to the humans. Here's a bunch of army people. Mm-hmm. That's pretty convenient.
We should probably give it to them.
Have this thing, that I'm going to give to you. Or was his plan to give it to higher government or whatever?
I don't know what his plan was.
Because, it's hard to tell, because even though they have the Predators speak in this one, they give the Predators...
subtitles.
Subtitles, which is also real weird. It just felt oh wow, this is the first time we've seen that. That feels... it's interesting that this movie actually expands the Predator mythology a lot more than almost any of the others movies do. Because it explains that there's different divisions of predators on Predator Homeworld. They have different motivations, and they're not all on the same page. So that's that's interesting. Also, let's say if the planet is going to die from global warming, and then they're going to move in. Why not give us a thing that fights global warming rather than
fix the problem.
Yeah, fix the problem, because
I will admit I thought the exact same thing.
Why when the Predator's oh, you have rad Predator suits? We'll just wait for global warming to take care of you. We said we were gonna. It doesn't even make sense in the film that it sets up of this suit will be useless as long as the Predators just don't show up. Definitely a mixed bag, especially with this ending here. Did anyone else have any spoilers they wanted to mention?
Let's just talk about the fact that, what is it, an 8-year-old autistic boy is recruited by the military as their, new predator language liaison.
Apparently.
Their predator linguistic expert.
See, I'm going to say something that's probably unpopular about that, too. I think Jacob Tremblay was completely useless in this movie. I get what they were trying to do to expand the alien mythos, but leading up to that plot point, I realized, this movie could have just lost him entirely. We didn't need a kid character other than Shane Black working with kid characters. So.
Well, it makes sense if we're doing the Predator in Suburbia movie that I feel like this initial movie was pitched as. Because I remember the early marketing for this was Predator in Suburbia.
Yeah.
Where, it was on Halloween and that was the initial promotion. But I think somewhere along the line it became a military movie and then a conspiracy movie. And I think things just kind of got added on until where it's 3 movies in one. And
it just spun out of control.
And so, I think there's just a lot of plot elements that just got added on, and that Jacob Tremblay is one of those plot elements that was added on from what I'm pretty sure is the original script for this movie, which was probably a sparse down, funnier, Predator in Suburbia isn't that quaint movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, it's hard to I'm actually going to be very curious to see in the years to come, like, the stories that come out about the production of this movie, or the director's cut, or some of the stuff like that. Because I feel like there's an interesting story on how this film came to be what it is. And I would like to hear that story, I think.
I agree with you.
But yeah.
We'll still watch the director's cut with you, Patience.
We'll do a commentary track for it.
There you go.
I also like they said that they make it like autism is the next stage of human evolution sort of thing. Of like, so now not only is autism a superpower, it's like Magneto is like, aha, no, the X-Men are like the mutants are where humanity is like, so it's like the next stage in evolution. Like I feel like that's what Travis said coming out of it, like, it'll make the anti-vaxxers pissed.
Yeah.
Like, but other than, I don't know how, because we've done that with The Accountant as well, of making autism superpowers.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about it. On one level,
I think it's kind of insulting, honestly. It's like, look, I get you want to you want to empower people with disabilities. It's like, that's cool.
Right. I like that.
But how many people do you know are that level of super autistic? Like, not everyone is Rain Man. And even Rain Man is not a superhero, you know? He's just really good at certain skills. Jacob Tremblay, they established, like, yeah, he can memorize where all the chess pieces are. But then when you get to the point where you can decipher alien languages, work all their gadgets, and, you know, interpret complex languages, you're just like...
No, I would have actually much more accepted they're just like, oh, when he put the mask on his face, that, like, actually jacked into his brain, like, rewired to something.
Oh.
That'd been fine.
Do the whole Battlefield Earth thing. He gets the learning machine.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have made much more sense. That would have made more sense.
Yeah, let's steal from the best movies. Battlefield Earth.
Might as well steal from somebody.
He did look kind of like a rat brain to me. I'm not going to lie.
I just want to see Boyd Holbrook come up to him then just like, son, do you want lunch?
Well, you are still learning to spell your name. I was conquering galaxies.
I was fighting predators.
Sometimes there were aliens there. It's hard to tell. The continuity's all messed up. What were we talking about?
I don't know.
God,
Dutch angles. Something about Dutch angles. I don't know.
And again, I will say that too, just on that shot. I mean, the detail about camera angles. I just thought this movie was decently shot throughout the whole thing. It's like, I think part of the problem with like I said, the filming of the action sequences was like, yeah, the editing is bad, but like we said, there's shots like Sterling K. Brown's death and certain other sequences. I'm like, I can't always tell what's happening in these shots. It's just a bad action movie director technique I really hate. You know, it's like, learn from Gareth Evans. You know, learn from, you know, the masters of action movies. Just keep the camera a little wider.
Yeah, I mean, and let it sit, really.
Let it breathe.
Yeah.
Like, let it, like, yeah, I think that's kind of the secret to it. Well, as long as everyone got their Predator out, everyone
I'm exhausted.
Everyone had their sufficient time to bleed, because now there is no more time to bleed.
Go get in the choppers!
I did have more fun talking about this movie than watching it, so...
I'll tell you what, that chopper line also made me laugh.
Oh, he laughed right on.
I thought it was funny.
Laughed my ass off, whatever.
Oh, and then also, what was it? Olivia Munn looking at things like, you are one beautiful mother effer.
Yeah.
Again, I liked it. I thought that was funny. I thought, and it also established her as the Data, like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is the best day of my life character.
They were like really great homages to the first Predator, I think.
Okay, also, sorry, one more thing. The fact that apparently because Olivia Munn was naked, that somehow the Predator didn't kill her. Like,
oh, that's an established thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Predators don't kill unarmed non-combatants. Unless they're scientists, apparently.
Okay.
Because
because all the other unarmed combatants they killed in this movie.
Well, I mean, they were around him when he just woke up, and Predators are notoriously cranky when they get up. And hungry.
And I'm pretty sure they had lab coats on, so whatever.
Also, love that the Predator finally bites people with those mandibles in this. I've always wanted him to bite people.
3 or 4 people.
Like,
yeah.
That was amazing.
Oh, and also, I'm sorry though, I gotta say too, the funniest death in this whole movie, and so funny, it didn't really register with me until after it happened.
Yes.
That one jerk-off frat dude.
Yes! Oh, thank God, Justin. We almost committed the sin of getting out of here without talking about that. That was hilarious.
I was just so shocked. I'm like, wow, I knew there was a really funny death in this movie, but I had no idea it was going to go out like this.
He's just a jerk for no reason, too, of just like, oh, hey, kid, how dare you trick-or-treat on Halloween? Take this rock.
And he throws a can at the kid.
Yeah. And then he gets taken out.
I think that the more Justin...
Oh, shit.
I think the more that Justin talks about this movie, the more he likes it.
Yeah.
No, because then I remember all the other scenes I didn't. I remember the scenes I didn't laugh at, and I'm like, okay.
But you had fun. There was some fun to be had.
Like I said, I gave it a 5. That's a good, average, decent movie rating.
Well, I mean, if we're going by Game Informer scores, you fucking hated this movie.
No, by Game Informer rules, I hated this movie. Justin shit on its grave.
Yeah. This is...
Martin Thomas, I gave this a matinee. Why'd you hate Inception, Martin?
To be fair, he did hate Inception. He only did give it a matinee. Inception. And like, why? Because it doesn't make sense on some of its structural levels? How dare you? Before I make the sin of making fun of Christopher Nolan fans, we won't even get into Interstellar.
Don't poke that bear.
That's a dangerous bear.
But yes, thank you guys so much for listening to this epically long episode. I didn't realize we were going to talk this long about it.
You should have.
It's fantastic. It's great.
You could have watched the movie in the time you listened to our review.
Yes, you could have watched it and then some. So
and all the trailers.
Oh my god, so many goddamn trailers. Oh.
Okay, yeah, so in your guys' screening, did you guys have like 7 movie trailers before yours as well?
Holy shit, it was like 15 minutes of trailers before the movie shows up.
No, because remember, we were 3 minutes late at least.
That's right, we were at least like 3 to 5 minutes late and we still had to wait. It's so ridiculous, the level of trailers.
No, we usually play a game where we actually time them. At this point, it's usually 18 minutes for a movie now.
They've been getting longer. Ugh. It's so bad.
In my press screening, we didn't have any trailers.
You shut
Someone was living in Wisconsin. We're heathens and don't get stuff like that.
So just
because they don't care about you. Movie studios don't care about Wisconsinites.
That's true.
The only time I don't watch trailers in my movie reviews is when I get the crappy screeners from the Screener Squad stuff, so...
All right. Well, we're going to let you get back to those crappy screeners, and we're going to get back to the rest of our night,
But we did watch The Captain, too. That was great.
Thank you guys so much for coming on again, Justin and Patience. It was fantastic. Thank you, everyone out there, for listening. Definitely let us know what you thought about The Predator and why we are wrong. I'm just assuming you think we're wrong just because... I think.
Come at me, bro.
I mean, if you're commenting on our board, it's only because you think we're wrong. It's not to tell us how right we were.
It's true.
That's not really how the internet works. But, thank you guys so much. And until next time, we're Unapologists Geek Out, and
we're out.